Doo-doo-doo.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, are you excited for today?
I am. It's a Wednesday bonus stream, which means we get to talk about kind of more interesting subjects that aren't like part of the core lore.
And speaking of the core lore, today we are talking about what is and is not canon in Warhammer 40k. What is loosely canon? What is it's in the lore but not canon anymore? What is like the strict this is what GW follows at all costs lore versus hey, there's Judge Dredd, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've worked with Games Workshop on a lot of different license projects, and I work directly at the headquarters, so I could tell you there's interesting perspectives on what is and isn't like directly canon, and things have obviously evolved over time. So, hey, we got people listening to us out there. All right, great. Can you guys hear us okay? Let us know.
Oh yeah, but first off, this is Ross. He worked at Games Workshop and wrote a whole bunch of Dark Heresy books and the books that actually helped me meet my fiance, which is really, really cool. So that's pretty awesome. Like I give him a 10 out of 10 for that. He did other stuff too, but it's not nearly as important as me meeting my fiance.
Thank you very much. Oh, they're saying they can hear us, which is great. But I should say that Alexis is not only a very talented cosplayer, she's a highly ranked Grand Tournament player, an excellent commission painter, a voice
Not a Grand
actress.
Tournament player, but I am a tournament player.
Sorry,
I'm highly ranked in Iceland.
Yeah, it's the Iceland. It's not GT. Okay, it's just Icehammer. Okay, yeah. She's ranked. She's nationally ranked in Iceland.
Yeah.
For her tournament play. So she knows how to play the game. She knows how to paint the models. She knows a lot about the lore. And this is our team here at Lorebeards 40k.
Heck yeah, let's go. I'm so excited for today. Sorry, I cut you off. I am so sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. So I mean, the first thing we should say right off the bat is like the only person who can actually say with total authority what is and isn't canon is Games Workshop.
Nah, it's me.
They could come out. They could come out tomorrow and say, you know, female Space Marines are canon. They always have been. It can happen.
They could.
So, yeah, but our opinions are shaped by a lot of experience, and they're shaped by a lot of connections and conversations and things that we've had with people who know the canon and how the company handles canon. So we're maybe not the best, but we're up there. We're able to speak with some confidence on the subject.
I always speak with confidence, even when I'm wrong.
One thing I'd like to start out with is actually just by praising the way Games Workshop handles canon. I've worked on a lot of licensed IPs. I've worked on The Lord of the Rings. I've worked on Star Wars.
I'm so sorry about the Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars canon is strange, but Games Workshop is able to turn their canon conflicts into mysteries to be solved. That's the thing I really like about the way they handle any issues with canon.
One of my favorite things is in the canon universe, like when two things happen at the same time, that clearly is more than likely a writer's mistake, like when they timed things because of the dating system and in the 40k universe, there is a good chance that it's just the lore itself backs it up by saying, well, they don't know what the actual year is, so it's fine. And I love that they have these little loopholes for things that are just like, oh, well, this now exists, like the Rogel Dorn tank has always existed since the heresy, and it's like, did it though? And it's like, well, yeah, it's just never been a main battle tank until now.
What's funny is that is entirely in line with how Games Workshop does canon. You know, when they first started making models back in the 80s, they had a very small range, and then they'd come out with something like the Rhino, or they'd come out with the Land Raider and say, well, this has always been here. Mm-hmm. And you were just like, okay, I guess that's true, you know.
Sure.
But I think the intrinsic unreliable narrator aesthetic for 40k is very important, because it means that fans can interpret all the events and actions and characters and even the rules as justification for their creative engagement with the hobby. They can say, well, I think this is true, so I'm going to make an Iron Snake's successor chapter that, you know, has traveled through the Halo stars. Okay,
Like
cool.
my custom chapter, the Sons of Garrow, descend from survivors of the Death Guard that remained loyal. Like, we know in the books that that group died, but the Sons of Garrow don't know that. So they believe they're descended from them. And that's a good justification within the lore to make your own thing. We have the 2 missing Primarchs, for example, which have always been a thing that people can just make up. That's why they are so strict on not naming them and not saying where they are or what really happened to them. They hint at it. They're just like, something happened during this event and one of the Primarchs went missing. And it's like, well, what happened? And they'll never answer that question. Or we get the Sigurdrix Maledictum ripping the universe in half, and all of these different war bands that never existed before suddenly appearing, but they have conflicts with the Imperium dating back to this time. It's like, well, they're here now, so here you go. I like the GW canon, and I don't like it at the same time. And I know this is a weird take. I love it for its justification of literally anything in the universe, and it's a much better handling of its lore than, say, Star Wars with the extended universe, where the extended universe of Star Wars is ridiculous if you ever read it. It gets crazier and then just keeps getting crazier. I'm pretty sure there's a Sith Lord that moves a black hole at one point. I'm not sure if that's canon or in the extended universe. It's been a long time since I read it. Don't quote me on that. But 40k's canon is it's usually by edition, which is something that's strange but works really well because Games Workshop, and this is coming from a player's point of view, not the makers or somebody like Ross who has way more experience with this, but I've seen players come and go throughout the years. The average lifespan of a Warhammer 40k tabletop player is around 4 to 5 years. They usually stay for one edition. So when things change and go to the next edition, and we get a whole bunch of stuff that changes over time, like custodians being women now, or Imperial Knights allowing women now, or Bretonnian Knights allowing women now. Wow, this happens a lot. Anyway, I had to make that joke because that did happen 3 times in less than 3 years, and it was really strange that it happened. But because the edition constantly changes, the lore constantly updates, and players are now a bit more how to put it? They want more rules in their codexes and less lore. And I know this kind of sucks for a lot of the lore players, but a lot of the times the codexes are completely obsolete now the second they get released, and that sucks for people like me who collect books and love collecting books and having shelves that fall apart because of the weight of the books where you can see it's bowing my shelf. I have to replace that soon. But we can constantly see that stuff is changing throughout the years. Characters who once existed back in the past can make a reoccurrence in the future, like the Demonofuge, or oh gods, I can't remember her name. The lady that's based off of the artwork, the Canoness, that's based off of the Rogue Trader artwork, who
That's
was
the
Valerian or
is,
something like that. Starts with a
yeah,
V.
yeah. That sounds right.
But she started out as just a piece of artwork back in the day, and then became a comic book character. Then was mentioned in a Sister of Battle book, and now has a miniature with rules and legends, which is still canon, but it is legends, so it's going away next edition, and it's not going to be included in the canon going forward. But it is a character that they can go back to and just bring back if they really want. And we have examples of this, like Boss Necron, who was discontinued back in 6th edition or 7th edition, and then brought back for 10th edition. Uh, the named Runtherd, I can't remember his name from the Orcs, was a
Get
canon.
Snaga?
Yeah, I think so. Was a canon character who was discontinued, was completely removed, and then came back. So that's why I like the GW lore so much, is because even when things get written out, they're not gone forever. They're somewhere.
They
Oh,
do a good they do a good job of evolving their lore over time. And I think one of the benefits of the way that their canon is set up is that they can pull from other projects, third-party stuff, anything that they really like, and leave everything they don't like behind. An example that I like to use here is Batman the Animated Series, the 1992 one.
Oh yeah,
there were.
I know. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. No, it's a great show. Go ahead.
You're going to mention Harley Quinn.
Well, she's one, but what I was kind of getting at is that there was decades of comics before that show ever launched. And what that show did is it picked the best stories from the comics and left everything else behind and told those stories in that new medium. And that's the best Batman we've ever had, frankly. So Games Workshop kind of does a similar process with any of its third-party materials. It can find things that it really likes in a role-playing game or a comic book or a novel and pull it in and make it part of the core canon when it goes into a rule book or a codex, and everybody goes, oh my God, it's that thing I love. It's a positive experience rather than a negative one. And it also kind of enriches them by allowing them to source from multiple different creatives on how to improve and evolve their lore, which, again, Star Wars for the longest time, like everything was canon. All the books were canon. All the novels were canon. Everything was canon, which created some problems.
Yeah, like the liquid universe.
Star Trek has one of those too, funnily enough.
I'm just glad that Games Workshop flat out said that the universe is just the universe, and that all the sound effects is because it would be boring without it.
Well, space fantasy too. It's space fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. But like Star Wars had to explain it with like, oh, actually the universe is this giant living creature that's like water and you're inside it, and that's why there's noise in space. And it's like, what?
It gets weird. Anytime you guys spot me anywhere, like at a convention or something, you can buy me a beer. I will happily tell you about my deep dives into the very strangest corners of Star Wars lore. But talking about 40k lore today, I'll give you some examples that I personally was able to help create that did end up becoming canon. Obviously, one of the first is the rogue traders and how the warrant of trade functions in that universe, the development of the impact of their wealth and their power. That's something that we created, and ended up, now when they talk about rogue traders in the setting, they talk about them from that perspective. The Death Watch, its organization, its the way it conducts its operations, those were all from the book that we created, and they directly referenced that role-playing game book when they were creating the codex for the Death Watch. In Dark Heresy, there was the Ordo Chronos that Andy Hoare came up with for one of our books, and that made its way into official canon now. It's a whole Ordo of the Inquisition that didn't exist before. Captain Titus, that we talked about a while back, is a really great example of someone that's being plucked from third party and moved into the core. So yeah, it happens. It happens a lot, and it's good. It's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we even have artists from like Magic the Gathering who have drawn art of 40k that has become canon. My favorite is the Sword of the Plowshare card that features a decommissioned Leman Russ tank with an augury on the front of it. And now that has actually been seen in a book. And that made me happy. I was like, when I saw that, I was just like, yes, because I wanted that to be canon so much, because there was a long-winded joke about the Leman Russ being an augury tool originally, being a tractor. And for the life of me, I couldn't find the lore that stated that it was just for the Leman Russ, but it was for a chassis that became the Leman Russ. So it's not the Leman Russ, it's the thing predecessor to it, which is the Landcrawler, which then got changed into a completely different piece of technology because GW's canon is changing, but they expand on it, and I like that. I did a whole series of vehicles, and I'm still doing the series of vehicles on my channel right now, where I talk about non-canonical Warhammer vehicles or slightly canon vehicles in 40k as well. And it's a ton of fun to have all these tanks that like exist in the lore but don't exist on the tabletop yet, because it means that at some point GW might, instead of using those, create something entirely different. Like instead of making the Ragnarok tank for the Deathcore Krieg that everyone wanted, here's the Rogel Dorn, which is a cool tank, don't get me wrong. I love my Rogel Dorn. But it was weird that the Ragnarok was right there and is the exact same tank basically, and GW is just like, nah, new tank.
One of the things that was really exciting for me actually is when I did my deep dive into the Horus Heresy and finding out how much that had been fleshed out and all the really cool little lore aspects of that hadn't been a thing before. I mean, actually, well, I can go on a long-winded rant about where the heresy came from and how it's changed and evolved.
Paragraph in Rogue Trader.
Well, and that came from manufacturing issues when they were starting out. So, like I said, it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but trust me, it's something I'm excited to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, there's.
My phone is on silent. There we go.
Yeah, good idea. Should we probably read some super chats now that we're
yes, we should,
into it a little bit?
That is how our fans show us great support and that they love us and care for us. So we got the first one from Friend or Trader, a $2 one. Awesome.
Canon keeps the good souls of the Imperium safe. I mean, cannons do, certainly.
These cannons.
Oh my God.
I had to.
Which way to the gun show?
I had to do it. I had to do it.
Magladroth 44. That's a cool name. Just wanted to say, so happy my Necron Satan loyalists finally have lore and a named character. Oh, Necrons and Canon. That's Alexis's favorite.
Oh my God. We're gonna get into that.
Always like the lore of pro-Satan Necrons. The time for the true rivals of chaos to rise again.
Honestly, GW has been building them to be the rival of chaos. And in fact, in Space Marine 2, you use Necron pylons to fight them. Like, I want to see that game. I want a game where it's just Necrons v Chaos Space Marines. I know it won't happen because the imperial focus of Warhammer 40k means that we can never get that, but it would be cool.
Zero Daimu. The word canon itself seems to be a misnomer for 40k. It implies that the world rules are more ossified about what's real or not than they are. Well, I mean, I don't have a better word. Zero Daimu than canon, and I think
okay.
Oh, Kovu's getting crazy.
Yeah, he just missed. He missed the jump.
So Zero Daimu, I don't know what other word we'd use, but you're not wrong in that it is different when you're talking about 40k than a lot of other IPs.
Yep.
I think Fallout is also pretty good about the unreliable narrator parts.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, the Fallout likes to add to their lore where there wasn't lore before. The most recent example is that Deathclaw. But I can get into that. I can get it. I love Fallout's lore.
Which Deathclaw are we talking about?
I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Oh, it's from the TV show. Okay,
yes.
All right. I haven't watched the second season yet, so yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, do it! I
will. Yeah. I want to. Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Zero Daimu. That's a great point. Freighter Trader, Nagash shall burst into 40k, consume all Satan. Wow, you think we hit a nerve there with Friender Trader?
Honestly, Nagash in 40k would be a really cool god because he would be way more powerful than he is in AOS, but he'd also be weaker because he's just coming in, and as far as I can tell, Nagash is not like tied to chaos or anything. He's just tied to the realm of death. So he would come in with his own realm. And we do have to mention this at some point, Warhammer and AOS and Old World and 40 and all of the universes at one point shared the same warp. And now they kind of don't, maybe.
Canonicity. Yeah. When I started working at Games Workshop in 2003, it was an inside joke, tongue in cheek, humor that the Warhammer Fantasy World was part of Warhammer 40k. It was out there somewhere, and you could see that in the treasures you got from the Albion campaign, Dark Shadows, which were all 40k items, just with fantasy names. But things changed since then, so there's that.
Magladroth. I knew I recognized this name.
Magladroth is the name of the Void Dragon. Oh, hey, all right. I missed that. I will remember that. On Mars, by the way.
In all fairness, this is a whole nother thing that has to do with Necrons. It is now confirmed that is a Void Dragon shard on Mars, and part of that shard was taken by Belisarius Cawl to trade to an Inquisitor, which is Inquisitor Draxus, who then traded it to I forget who then unleashed it against his. I think it was Trazine, and then he unleashed it against his own people so that they could get out. It's a whole crazy story. That was the Psychic Awakening. It was very weird. Necrons are very weird in the lore.
Well, they are, and Alexis is chomping at the bit to tell you guys all about like how the Necrons have changed.
I'm gonna go on this giant rant, and somebody is gonna be like, actually, Alexis, you said the wrong edition for this one change, and I hate you for it.
Largely, you can break down, and I'm speaking in generalities here, so I mean, obviously there's going to be some exceptions, but in the main, you can break down like 4 different canon eras of 40k. There's first edition, which is the Rogue Trader era, which had its
and we're counting everything in Rogue Trader. This includes Chaos being a part of Rogue Trader because the original Rogue Trader book didn't feature Chaos, which was weird. They came out in their own separate book because there was a lot of them.
Brian Ansell. To add that. Brian Ansell was big on Chaos. Priestley was not. They had to have work it out, and then that's when Chaos kind of became part of the setting.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. So first edition is kind of the first era of 40k, which is when it was at its peak of satire and humor. It is
Cops, Judge Dredd.
Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau is the name of the first Inquisitor.
The Eldar being like jerks and not an enemy, just jerks. Or just space jerks.
Yeah. So that's the first era, which is it's very much its own thing. Then you've got the second era, which is second edition 40k. I know that I'm going from just one edition to second edition, but second edition is vastly different than first, and it's still vastly different than third, which is why it's kind of its own era. But this is when they started to kind of codify the Grimdark. This is when Andy Chambers was the Overfiend, and he and the John Blanche and the writing team, they started kind of creating this idea of a grim, dark future with all of this is kind of the foundation, the bells and whistles of what 40k truly is, kind of come from second edition more than anywhere else.
Now, I'm adding on to that. The second edition era is also when we got some of the funniest orc lore in the history of forever that I still reference to this day, because we got so much crazy stuff, and GW was just throwing everything at the wall, seeing if it worked. And we got like the orcs were like in German uniforms at this point.
But the Storm Boys.
Yeah, there were also soccer hooligans. The truck wasn't an American truck. There were a lot of really funny things in this edition.
Oh, Gene Stealers rode around in limos. There was a lot of wild stuff.
Stealers and limos. Necromunda made its first appearance in second edition.
So did Gorka Morka.
Yeah, but they weren't fleshed out fully until third. Like the third edition era is what I mean.
I mean, Necromunda got fleshed out a lot in the Gang War magazine, and then later in a lot of specialist games material, which was third edition. So I will agree with you there for sure. The third era is kind of the longest. This is the third edition to seventh edition era, and this is where they really buckled down into the grim dark, and they started to really, really explore a more serious style of 40k. A lot of the humor and the satire started to kind of slowly leach out of the setting, but it was replaced by, I will admit, frankly, awesome writing. Some excellent stuff. This is where we get, a more thorough examination of the Horus Heresy. This is, we get a lot more information on the individual Space Marine chapters, on the individual factions, on the individual worlds. The novels really start coming out. So the novels started coming out earlier, but they really hit their stride.
My God, they were bad in the early days.
The good novels and the majority of the series that are still going now got their start in that era, in that third edition to seventh edition era. And then the last era is post 7th edition, 8th edition to current day, which, you know, encompasses the era Indomitus and all the things that have changed the universe since then. Those are, in my opinion, the four big demarcations you can make of, like, this was canon then, this is canon then, this is canon then, this is canon now.
And I would even add to it that there is the three eras of Heresy, first, second, and third edition, the tabletop game, all have their own unique canon because there are just vehicles in second edition that do not exist in the Heresy at all. The Ball Predator, the Flamestorm tanks, twin-linked las cannons, Razorbacks didn't exist. They're in the game, and it was very weird. Attack bikes didn't exist. And then third edition just got rid of so much of that stuff by moving it to Legends, and GW was just like, yeah, we're not supporting this stuff anymore. So we're going to see all of that disappear unless they make kits for it going forward into the future. Because a lot of the stuff that was in Heresy First Edition was just a bunch of guys sitting around just going, oh, of course they have this. Of course they have this. They have to have this. Yeah, a captain in Terminate armor could ride a bike. Duh. There was a lot of silly things you could do back in the day. Yeah, but what really happened in Heresy is really fun because you could definitely see the stuff that was discontinued from Warhammer 40k was just pushed into Heresy so that people didn't feel bad for losing their miniatures, and it was just like, you have all this stuff in this game, it's not good, but you can use it.
Some of it is good. I mean, Indomitus Terminators, the second edition, are actually pretty good. But
yeah, if you had a Thunderhammer Storm Shield, they were really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, specifically that build. Anyway, so that's my breakdown on the four eras. If you want, Alexis, I was going to bring up my personal canon hierarchy and talk about that.
Now, I debate this.
Oh, it's debatable.
Obviously, me and him are going to have a fist fight over this because that's exactly how this happens.
Oh, obviously, yeah. I mean, and to be clear, like, I have no, I'm not married to it, but this is just my opinion, and I'm happy to discuss it.
It's just like your opinion, man.
It's just like your opinion, man. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who uses quotes from old movies. All right, so I'm going to bring this up here, and we can take a look at it. There we go. And
by the way, the Lebowski is a bar here in Iceland. I thought that would make you happy.
That does make me happy. So this is my personal opinion on the canon hierarchy of Warhammer 40k, and the number one is the rulebooks and codexes of the current edition. Many times when I was working on licensed properties, which include all the role-playing games and all the video games that I worked on, whenever I would speak to the licensing team or the IP, the head of IP, or the designers, guys like Phil Kelly, they would tell me the most accurate lore is what I'm going to find it in the rulebooks and codexes of the current edition. It is the holy grail. Like, if it's in there, you know for a fact that's a true thing and is going to be true until that book is replaced.
Now, I will add on to this that I would also include things like Kill Team is also up there because it is a current edition, current supported edition, and units that are added to the game proper, like, you know, the Sanctifiers, are canon, where because they're added into the codex later on, but because they have a codex entry, I would consider them in this category.
Yeah, I totally agree. Kill Team is part of that. I mean, it was kind of in my mind when I was writing out rule books. I wasn't just thinking just 40k rule books, but meant, you know, stuff like Kill Teams. You
never know. There's going to be somebody that's like,
no, that's fair.
Ross said Kill Team's not canon.
No, that's fair. I would never say that, to be clear. And then my secondary canon is anything that's previous to the current edition. So again, you know, if you go all the way back to Rogue Trader, first edition, it gets really wonky. So the further back you get, the less likely that what you're seeing is still accurate or still part of the kind of current lore. The third entry is Black Library background books. This is like the Liber Chaoticas, the Sabbath Crusade, stuff like that.
Where would you put the big black books of the heresy for the tabletop game?
Those
And
are
currently the big red books. You would put those in rule books, right?
yeah, they would be in number one, except that the heresy editions override them.
Yeah. Okay.
So if it's in the current Horus Heresy third edition rulebook, that information is more accurate than what's in the red books.
Okay.
But to be clear, what's in the red books is really damn good, and is
yes, it is.
It was written by a good friend of mine, Alan Bly, with some help with John French. Alan Bly was one of the best writers they had for a very long time. Rest in peace, Alan. He was a great dude. Anyway, so the Black Library background books in number 3. This is what I'm talking about when I say things like Sabbath Crusade, or the new one is Liber Xenologus, I think, right? I'm gonna call it Xenologus. I don't remember the exact title, but there is one glaring exception to this, though, and it's in fact the reason why Black Library stopped doing background books for a very long time. They published a book called Xenology, and this came out in the early 2000s, and it said a lot of really weird stuff. First of all, it tried to tell you what the Crud were, which were like these weird flatworm dudes. And they tried to say that ethereals had like a pheromone creating gland in their head, I think. And if you, it just had a lot of very, very, very strange details.
Don't forget about the Eldar poop crystals.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that.
Or that Eldar turn into crystals as they get older, which would imply that they turn into literal feces for them.
Okay, seers do turn into crystal, but anyway.
Seers. Yeah. And that's why they have the jet black eyes, when that's one of the first things. And I really like that. The more powerful they are, the darker their eyes get. I always like that. I always thought that was super cool. But turning fully into crystals is very silly.
And so why is Xenology the exception? I was told by the head of IP directly that Xenology should have never been made, and I should never ever reference it in anything I was doing. And this is when I was doing all my Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy Deathwatch era. So I had my fingers in a lot of pies. So it was made extremely clear to me by executives at Games Workshop that this is something that would never be referenced ever again.
Now, I do want to point something out about Xenology. It was so bad that it was one of the first books and like only books. There were a few others that GW flat out says, like in quotes in the books, that this is not canon.
Well,
I love that.
I think that the new Xenologus book is kind of just from the title, makes me think that it is kind of an apology for Xenology.
Oopsie daisy here. Forget the other one ever existed. It's a what is it? The whole joke about Frozen, like Disney's Frozen was made because people kept looking up to see if the creator of Disney was Frozen. So GW did something similar. They're just like, name it the same thing, make it more popular.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
That's a joke. Fair enough. It's still really funny.
Fair enough. And before we get into number 4, why don't I take this down for a second and we'll read some super chats, because I know we got quite a few of them.
Yes, we did. All right. Boom.
Hey, Bagladroth. Welcome back, sir. I play my 40k games with Nagash as the ruler. Krell is now merged with an avatar of Cain. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I dig that a lot. He leads an army of undead Eldar who sold their souls to Nagash to save themselves from Slaanesh. Okay, we've hit some really interesting stuff here.
Okay, so hear me out, because this is not far off from an actual canon story. You just need to replace Nagash what you need, and you have a canon story. This is just...
Well, Krell too, but yeah.
Yes. You replace a couple of names. But this is just the Ynnari. Like, you were doing a Ynnari army, which is awesome.
I'm going to bring up another quote really quick, just because it illustrates something. Zero Daimu asks, isn't there an argument to be made Xenology is canon in that it's written from the POV of an Ordo Xenos guy, so it exists in universes the ravings of a weirdo? I mean, you certainly can look at it. I pointed out as a very specific thing that I doubt they'll ever change because of how passionate they were about not liking it.
There is an in-universe book written by the Rogue Trader, which is a xenology adjacent book. It's the guy that has that goes to the Blackstone Fortress.
Right, but I think that's Xenologist
Yeah,
that we were talking about.
Xenologist.
Yeah.
So the in-universe one is the out-of-universe one.
All right.
I like thinking of xenology as the mad ramblings of like somebody who doesn't understand things.
You know, that is honestly the best way to think about xenology. It is a weird in-universe book that was written by a crazy guy, and everybody says, no, that didn't happen.
Well, I mean,
there you go.
At our tabletop, when we play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, we have a in-universe joke now that elves melt in the rain, and that's why they're always seen in their armor.
Okay, because there
is no basis for this, but humans are very quick to believe what they think is true. So if you have a very high charisma character saying that, they're going to be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense."
I should also point out that despite being told like extremely passionately that xenology was not a thing, they can always change their mind. I think Mr. Mike Hates Peasants pointed that out, that Games Workshop can always change their mind, and they have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's possible that it might come back around. Anything can come back around. But as far as I know, right now, xenology is not a thing. I would not put any faith in xenology.
It also shouldn't be a thing. Orcs are not balloon fungus creatures.
Magladrouth 44. Most of Void Dragon, he says, is still intact on Mars per Necron 8th edition.
Yes, it is, but it's still a shard of it. It's just a lot of shards of it, so it's a very powerful Void Dragon. And there's a whole story with the Void Dragon and the Emperor, and possibly making a deal with the Void Dragon to start the Mechanicum, which is a really, really cool like story of Mars, where the Emperor visited Mars prior to the AdMech actually existing, or the Mechanicum at the time existing, and then planting the seeds of the Mechanicum by feeding the Void Dragon the Martians of the AdMech in exchange for making all of his technology.
That would be entirely in character for the Emperor to do that.
Yes. Also, I really got to clear this paint off my hand. I use my hand as a dry brush palette.
I mean, there's also that thing that Ferrus Manus fought that may or may not have been a Necron. So
it definitely wasn't, but was. But also, the Emperor defeated a Satan shard, like when he was just a dude. Like, you know, just things that happen.
Quite possibly. We're going to get into some things about the Emperor that were canon at some point soon.
I do love this. I do love the whole idea that the Void Dragon is actually working with the Imperium because it wants revenge against the Necrons, because the Necrons killed it.
And Biofoot 7874. Oh, a 40k actually episode would be fun. I can actually. No, yeah, I agree. That would be fun.
I would be sitting here losing my mind, because I would be saying things and you'd be like, actually.
The Caring Bear. Oh, I love the icon there. The Caring Bear became a member. Thank you, Caring Bear.
Heck yeah.
Harbinger 444. I don't remember where I heard it, but did Big E, meaning the Emperor, want the Space Marines to have a role with humanity instead of killing them? Continue in next chat. Unclear is the right answer on that. He wanted to not Thunder Warrior them, but some were obviously too broken to spare them all. I am sure he would have liked 20 Ultramarine Legions. Okay, here's something I can speak about at length. gonna limber up a little bit. According to a story from Malkador, take with a grain of salt. So here's your giant grain of salt. But according to Malkador, the plan that he and the Emperor worked on for the Great Crusade was, the idea was to conquer the galaxy using the Space Marine Legions. Once that was done, they were going to Thunder Warrior the Space Marine Legions and get rid of them, because the idea was to create a galaxy for humanity. And that the Primarchs, again, according to Malkador in this one story, were meant to be kind of like regional governors or a council. Like the Primarchs were going to stick around and help the Emperor rule the galaxy, but it was going to be a galaxy of people, like men and women, not space marines. That they were tools to serve one purpose, and that's it. That's according to that one story. Now, the Emperor had no hesitation in warrioring the Thunder Warriors. I don't see him having any hesitation in doing the same to the Space Marines, because his affection, even for the Primarchs, was extremely remote. And those were his sons. Those were his, closest kin, if you will. So yeah, I think I don't see the Emperor hesitating to do it if he felt it was important.
The one thing that I do know from the heresy is that Malkador always knew that the heresy was going to happen. He just he wasn't expecting it to be on such a large scale and for chaos to unify. So they were planning to heresy, get half the legions killed at all times. And I do feel like this is again my headcanon for it, is that I believe that each of the Primarchs were a representative of each other. So you had two Primarchs that represented like Rome, which was Angron and Guilliman. You had two Primarchs that represented beauty and artistic flair, which was Sanguinius and Fulgrim. And then you had two for building up immaculate fortresses. And you had all of these things, but they were fail-safes for each other. Like if one fell, then they still have the other. So I always viewed it as like he did intend to kill off the Space Marines, but maybe keep some around just as planetary governors, similar to what Guilliman is currently doing, where he's putting Space Marine chapters in charge of certain planets so that they can be in more of a protectorate.
So two quick things. I don't believe Malkador ever planned on a Horus Heresy type event. I think what he planned for was rebellion.
Yeah, rebellion.
And that's, according to the most recent sources of the Horus Heresy, it is heavily implied that Leman Russ and the Space Wolves were the Emperor's executioners that he used to deal with rebellions. And that is, I think, what she's talking about there with the idea of the heresy being a planned thing. The second thing is what's really fascinating about what Alexis was just talking about is that everything we know about Primarchs and the Horus Heresy is a pretty recent development.
Yeah, it is.
Again, it was a manufacturing issue in the 80s that became a paragraph in the 90s, that became a card game in the early 2000s, that became a book series, that became its own game. The track of the Horus Heresy goes a long way, and that original manufacturing issues, they had enough bandwidth to do Space Marine kits, but they couldn't produce anything else, and they didn't have anybody for Space Marines to fight, so they produced sprues of different colors and said, okay, these Space Marines are different sides of the Civil War. There you go. Yeah. And that's the manufacturing issue. Anyway, thank you, Harbinger 444. I love talking about heresy. Appreciate you bringing that up. Any more?
I do think that two legions that would have stuck around after the entirety of everything in forever is actually it's going to be the Space Wolves, because they're always needed. And I think it's going to be, hands down, the Dark Angels, because they can keep a secret. I think one represents Malkador, the other represents the Emperor.
I mean, that's not a bad way to think about it, actually. I like your perspective on that. Are there any more? We
have two more super chats that just came in.
All right, let's read those. Friend or Trader, $5, sir. Are the Dark Angels obsessed with secrets and deceit because they misread their Primarch's name as Lionel Johnson? Lion, like I'm lying to you? These are important questions. My friend, I'm a Dark Angel super fan. I can talk a lot about why they do secrets and deceit and how it was hilarious during the Horus Heresy. But that's not this episode, so I'm not going to get into it. But we will talk about it on another show. We talk about Dark Angels. The short version is, no, they're into secrets and deceit because they dealt with stuff that the Emperor said you can tell no one about this.
Yeah, the Men of Iron.
I mean, maybe, possibly.
Well, they have them in heresy still.
The Excendios. You're talking about the Excendios. Yep. Yeah. N7 Greenfire, good to see you back, sir. Stares at pre-Indomitus era Imperium. I, for one, welcome our Astartes overlords. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, honestly, like, yeah.
Magladroth 44 asks, theory, do you think the vault that Vashtor is after is actually the outsider's cage? If not, then what?
He's after the Excendio.
Really? The Dark Angels?
I 100% think that Vashtor attacked. Well, one, they had to get a key. That was very important. That's the reason they were there. They were trying to get one of the secret keys. What these secret keys do in 40k, no one knows because there's no lore on them. But he was also there for a piece of a thing of technology to open up a gate, to open up a realm of chaos and whatever. Big spooky guy's evil plan, and then Be'lakor comes out with a steel chair and is just like, I'm here and I'm gonna win this time. And everyone was like, holy crap, he won this time. And then he's like, I don't know what to do now, so I'm leaving, and just left. That is a jokey version of telling you what happened in when Vashtor attacked the rock in I forget what book series that was. It was a little campaign book series, and it was really funny. I don't think it wasn't Gathering Storm. It wasn't was it Psychic Awakening? No, it wasn't Psychic Awakening. It was
Arcs of Omen.
Arcs of Omen. Yeah, he was trying to open up the Arcs of Omen, and he needed a thing from the Dark Angels. But I truly think that Vashtor knew about the Excendio and was after them as well.
It's possible.
But that's a theory.
It's possible. When we talk about the Dark Angels and we talk about the Excendios, that's going to be fascinating because, yeah, they are abominable intelligence, and yep. that's terrifying in a lot of ways. The Dark Angels are trusted with weapons that no one else are trusted with.
Yeah, so. It's great. I love them, and they are the most trusted chapter of Legion by the Emperor
during the heresy. Yes, that's true. Yeah. At post heresy, obviously that changes. Yep. So that's
got one more.
Oh, Ricardo Andre.
Oh my God, they just keep coming.
Thank you. Hey, guys, we appreciate the support. It's thanks to you that we can keep the show going. Yeah. My personal interpretation of Warhammer is that Age of Sigmar doesn't matter at all. I mean, that's
agreed.
Seems fair to me. And 40k and Warhammer Fantasy Battles walk side by side until end times, and 13 BC. As the 13 BC was meant to be 40k end time, Age of Sigmar took IU, I'm not sure what that is, years to be formed. I'm not sure about that either. Okay, so yeah, Age of Sigmar does not matter to 40k. Does it matter to Warhammer as in Warhammer Fantasy? Probably not. You'd have to ask Andy and Ryan, but I don't think so.
I do have a little bit to talk about this.
Okay.
Age of Sigmar is often used as a test ground for rules for Warhammer 40k. And we have seen rules that appear first in Age of Sigmar will then make an appearance in 10th edition or the next edition. So Age of Sigmar does do a bit of testing. As of right now, I think it is currently the lowest or second lowest selling game for Games Workshop out of the big four. That being Warhammer 40k in number 1, Horus Heresy, Old World, and those two switch back and forth. Old World is currently taking a lead because it has no cost to Games Workshop to make. And then it goes Age of Sigmar. And the three of them switch back and forth, but Warhammer 40k does outsell all of them. Combined. And has, for a very long time.
I can say this, 40k and Warhammer Fantasy Battle walking side by side until end times. They walked side by side until the Storm of Chaos. That's a lot closer to when the two universes were no longer connected. I was actually working there right after the Dark Shadows campaign, and I remember being told, "Yeah, we're not doing that anymore." And then Storm of Chaos was like the next year. AOS took in universe years to be formed, is what I'm informed. That's what he's actually saying there. So Age of Sigmar did take years to be formed. I'm not sure what that. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what that has to do with the rest of the sentence, but you're not wrong, and you gave us some cool stuff to talk about. So I do appreciate the heads up.
We also got another new member. Awesome.
Hey, N7, welcome.
And then
this is my favorite Lorebeards on the Citadel. Kurin Shima 3912 says Imperium versus Terran, Tyranids versus Zerg. Who would win?
The Tyranids. There's more of them.
Tyranids would win versus Zerg. I think I can go with that. Imperium versus Terrans. The Imperium would win that fight too. Imperium wins most.
Assuming their technology works. That's the big thing. Like, assuming Warhammer's technology works in the universe that you're putting them in, and they have a connection to the warp, then the Imperium wins. The second you put them in a neutral ground where they don't have connections to their own universe, the Imperium destroys itself because most of their space technology doesn't work.
Well, their faster than light certainly doesn't. So yeah, but we could have a whole show on that, frankly. All right, I'm going to bring back.
We should just do a whole show where it's
40k versus,
but we just let people just super chat in what they want to hear us talk about.
Do polls of who the combatants are. That'd be really cool. I agree. Thunderdome. It would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to add this back to the stage here and talk about number 4. Obviously, I'm biased. So giant grain of salt. Here you go. This is clearly something I have a lot of passion and time built into. So why am I ranking RPG products so high?
I honestly, okay. So the reason I think you're ranking them so high is not only have you been directly involved in them, but I think that's actually lower on the scale of they have been so instrumental to the lore structure itself that they are constantly referenced and they appear on all of the galaxy maps. Like, things that are in the RPG books constantly appear. And things that are in the RPG books that are just chapters or just a throwaway sentence appears in later lore. Like,
well, this is I'm going to get into why I think that is. One of the reasons why RPG products specifically RPG products, I think are high on this list is because a lot of the writers and creators of those RPG products were either game designers themselves, like guys like Andy Hoare or Owen Barnes, who did a whole bunch of, like, if you've ever played any of the new Blood Bowl or any of the new Necromunda or the new Adeptus Titanicus, that's those guys, Andy Hoare and Owen Barnes. They kick ass at that kind of stuff, and they kicked ass doing writing for me for years. Remember I said John French and Alan Bly, who wrote the red books for the Black and Red books, they did a lot of stuff for me on the role-playing game. So Aaron Dembski-Bowden did work for me on Wrath of Glory.
Yeah, I love him. He's such a great guy.
And at one point he was actually I think he might have been head of IP for a while.
He should. He should definitely be the head of IP.
So there's a lot of very influential creators and writers that work directly at or with Games Workshop that also were involved with RPG products. But that's not the only reason. In fact, that's not even the main reason why I think it's so high on this list. There's 2 more reasons why I say RPG products are so high on this list. And one of those is the level of detail that you get. So when you play 40K, you're kind of removed from the table, as in you're the general looking down at your army. You only really get down to model's eye view when you are, checking for line of sight. But if you are reading a Black Library book or playing a video game, it's a little more immersive because you're in the action, you're part of it. A role-playing game is like that, but it's interactive. You're actually able to make choices and affect what's around you only to the limits of your game master's imagination. And what that means is that it's a far more intimate way to engage with the lore than I think any other avenue. And then secondly, we were under very strict scrutiny because of all the things I just mentioned. Anytime we made products for the 40K Wrath of Glory or for 40K Roleplay, the Fantasy Flight Games editions, the licensing team would go through that with a fine-tooth comb. They put a lot, they held this to a very high standard, is what I'm trying to say. Because we were diving so deep, because we were getting so far into aspects of their setting that just hadn't been explored. The street's eye view, if you will, of an average Imperial citizen just wasn't something they'd had to think about, really.
Yeah.
So the RPG products are held to a much higher standard than, say, for example, Black Library novels. That's one of the reasons why I put them so high. And then lastly, of course, is personal bias, because I really liked them.
So one thing that I would say is I would say that the comic books go here as well. And my reasoning is because of the scrutiny levels that GW put onto Marvel. Like Marvel almost pulled out of their deals multiple times, and Dark Horse also, because GW was so like in it, like, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, that can't happen, this has to happen like this, these guys can't get defeated, these guys can get defeated, this. Um, but that's just me. I would say it's lower than the RPG books. I would put it a little bit above like White Dwarf articles, but that's me. But there was one that I want.
Where does Warhammer Community? It's not. Warhammer Community is not canon.
I would put this as 9.
Okay, fair enough.
That's it. That's where I would put it. The Warhammer Community team is just that. It is a team of people who are just writing articles. And they write really, really good articles. And a lot of the stuff that they write is just directly lifted from the White Dwarfs, or later added to White Dwarfs, or even straight from codexes and everything. But it's just advertisement. That's all it is. Like, I hate to say that, but it is just an ad. I watch it religiously, but it is an ad for the game that we play.
I was told as early as this time last year that Warhammer Community stuff is something that I, as a third party guy, should not be looking at. I should only focus on the truly accurate stuff. And to go even further than this, if you look at the description of whatever the model is on Games Workshop's website, if that does not align with the codex or the rulebook, the codex of the rulebook is correct. That is what I was told directly from Games Workshop at as early as a year ago this time. So
now I know there's going to be a lot of people who talk about this and everything, so I just want to nip this right in the bud immediately. There was mention of a female custodian in the rulebook for the custodians, the codex for them. That is completely canon. That is absolutely canon. And I am aware that after that codex was released, there was an art book and a book released by Games Workshop that stated that custodians are a brotherhood, but Warhammer 40k says brotherhood a lot, and it is meaningless. It is almost a genderless term for them. But that lore that's in that book that was published after the codex, which is not a codex, mind you, it is not a rule book, it is just a lore blurb book, is not even on this list. So it is not canon. It is not the big book of canon. It's not there. It's just a art book. That was it. And they took lore from an older edition of Warhammer and just slapped it in it. And I could show multiple examples of this because they did the same with Space Marines and Sisters of Battle. So I just want to nip that right in the butt just immediately. Because I know some people are going to be like, yeah.
Morning to Crescent says, Brotherhood is genderless in the same way the Imperium of Man is genderless. He's not wrong. The Imperium of Man does contain a lot of women. So, Black Library novels. Here we go. Oh boy, Black Library novels. We can go on a long discussion about this. So, Adeptus Ridiculous recently went over the Ian Watson books, which are a prime example of novels that don't feel at all like 40k. The C.S. Goto Dawn of War novels don't feel at all like 40k. There's several novels that don't really feel like 40k. And part of this is because obviously Black Library as an institution has gone through different stages and management teams. There's the Mark Gascoigne era, which is the one I think most people are familiar with because he was around for the longest, but now we're in the Nick Kime era where things are a little different. Yeah, Black Library has gone through changes, and nowadays Black Library books are, I mean, I'm reading Devastation of Baal, and it's exactly what Devastation of Baal is in the codex for, or the game rulebook for Devastation of Baal. It is telling that story, and I love it. So it is possible that the Black Library novels are on an upward trend and will someday be higher than everything else on this list. Yes. I can only say, like, looking at it overall, you've got some highs and you got some lows. We talked about the Ian Watson and the CS Gotos. Again, nothing personal against those creators. I'm sure they're very nice people.
Everything personal against them.
But
Joking.
the guy I want to talk about for this specific number, though, is Dan Abnett. Dan Abnett, the creator of the Gaunt's Ghost books and the Horus Heresy novels and a whole bunch of other stuff. He kind of came along to Games Workshop right in that third edition era, the late 90s, and started writing for Inferno and then started writing novels. And when his books came out, everybody was enthralled. And one of the reasons why everybody was enthralled is that he took the setting and brought it down to a much more grounded level. And he gave things terminology that we use today. Prior to third edition, if you talk about a tank running out of fuel, it's fuel. It's not promethium. And they communicate on comms, not vox, right? There wasn't an auspex. Dan came up with a common lexicon, if you will, that is still carried on forward today. Like everybody uses it. It's in all the codexes. It's in all the rule books. The way that you describe how things look, feel, act, a lot of that can be attributed to Dan Abnett and his book. So if you want to talk about influence, that's probably the largest influence on 40K that isn't an actual game rulebook.
I would completely agree with that, but I do want to add one thing. The bathrooms should be called lavatoriums.
It's called a necessarium.
I know, but it should be lavatorium.
I like necessarium. That comes out, that comes out of the Commissar Kane books, because
yes, it does.
They're the only ones that mention the toilets, as far as I'm aware.
Yep. It would be funny if, depending on what part of the universe you were at, they had different signs for it, like they do for bathrooms.
Yeah.
Like bathroom, wash center.
Yeah.
Like it could be really funny.
And then we've got the White Dwarf articles are next. So White Dwarf is kind of like Black Library. There's a period of time, actually a fairly significant period of time, when White Dwarf was just a magazine about role-playing games. I own many of these editions. It was a really good magazine for role-playing game stuff. And if you're a D&D nerd like I am, you might be surprised to learn that a lot of monsters that are core to D&D came out of White Dwarf articles that were later bound into a book called Fiend Folio. So there's a very... Games Workshop would not exist without D&D. That is a incontrovertible fact. The reason Games Workshop was founded was to distribute D&D in the UK, and they grew from there.
D&D miniatures,
and they grew from there.
Yep.
Anyway, so the White Dwarf articles, after the post role-playing game era, when it became the in-house organ for Games Workshop, yes, I know I said organ. Get your giggling out of the way now. That's when lore stuff from 40K started showing up in it, and over time, some of these articles became really, really big deals. I remember in the early 2000s when the Index Astartes series of articles was written, and those were really, really cool. Actually, one of my friends is a guy who wrote one of those articles for the Thousand Suns. And Githyanki and Slotty, yes.
GW made these.
Well, they helped. Charles Stross, the famous sci-fi author, is the creator of the Githyanki and the Slotty.
Yep.
So that's fun fact. Anyway, so there were a series of articles in White Dwarf that became very influential, like the Index Astartes articles, which really fleshed out some individual chapters. It even fleshed out some of the aspects of the Horus Heresy and gear. That's where the Death Watch first appeared, was as an Index Astartes article in White Dwarf. But, and this is why it's ranked lower, is that White Dwarf is not really a lore delivery device.
It's an advertisement.
I mean, it is primarily that, yes. But I would argue that its focus tends to aim much more squarely on playing the game, the hobby, and sometimes like things like the lore and stories. But most of the time, it tends to focus on the aspects of the hobby that are universal. And because it covers all the different settings and things that Games Workshop makes, this means that it's had, again, a very uneven relationship with Canon. If it were me, and this is my list, so I'm gonna it is for me. I would say if you're reading a White Dwarf article and you're like, this sounds weird, I'm not sure if it's still accurate, it might not be. In fact, it's kind of unlikely to be if it's older. So
now I do have to add one thing to this. White Dwarf is where the infamous purple orcs come from. And I want to nip this right in the butt. The purple orcs are not canon. It's because we can't see them in the canon. I'm joking. But the purple orcs were actually painted up by, I think, Andy Chamber. And they were just in the article. This is before he worked for them. They were just orcs. And the article says you've never seen orcs in purple. And the idea was that they were sneaky because they were orcs in purple. That has become now it it did become influential to the game because colors started becoming super important to the orcs to the point where red does go faster, and that is a rule that is still in current edition. Checker patterns mean death. Yellow is for money, and there's a
Blue
few
is lucky.
Blue is lucky. And these are things that are still canon. And it all has to do with a fan at the time painting his orcs differently and becoming canon. So things that the community does themselves have become canon. The Tomb Keepers are a good example of this. Your Legion is a good example of this, or your chapter.
No, the Storm Wardens. Oh, that's that's an RPG thing. So
yeah, but see, you are a fan and you did make it.
That's true. But it went through the RPG process and got vetted by the designers.
But we have seen things that fans have created become canon before. The Saturnine Terminators are a really good example of this.
Well, they're just based on old models.
Yes, but the name Saturnine Terminators is a fan thing.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Because the original Terminators were just called Terminators. That was it. And then fans came up with names for them. They called one the Cataphractii armor, one the Tartaros armor because it looked like a turtle. And then the other one was Saturnine because it was made on Saturn. And then that became actual lore. And now we actually have the box set, which is sitting right there.
Actually, Saturn in the early Great Crusade era is fascinating. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that happens in and around Saturn. And like everything we know about the Solar Auxilia is based on their methods of war. Anyway, fun fact. I can't stop myself sometimes from like, this is cool and I want to talk about it.
No, just talk about it. That's what we're here for.
And then there's the video game. So actually, I want to bring up a comment here really quick from Man Like Pegasus. Great name. I'd argue that every modern 40k game is canon, he says. Dark Tide, Space Marine, Battle Sector, Chaos Gate, Bolt Gun, Hired Gun, etc. seem to be all claimed as canon.
Okay, hear me out on this. I think personally that video games post Space Marine 2 have become canon, but there are nods to other games. Like Admiral Spire is talked about in Imperial Nihilus as an old admiral that came back with a grudge, and that's definitely Admiral Spire. Like that's 1000%.
They didn't name drop him, but yeah.
But there are things like Hired Gun is not canon. It's a really cool game, and I absolutely love it. But I would argue that Hired Gun is canon in the Necromunda universe, which is not canon to the 40k universe. Necromunda is its own like separate little game that has its own canon and everything, but it has loose connections to 40k. And I think you agree with me on this.
I do.
Darktide. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. Darktide as a game, I believe is the story in it is canon, not the gameplay, obviously. Space Marine 2 is more canon than Space Marine 1. And we just saw that Lieutenant Titus was just moved to Legends because we just got Captain Titus. But Lieutenant Titus was made as a figure that was built by a separate company. There's a whole thing there. GW made the original model and then sold the rights to it to a different company, which then produced it. The other company is Barnes & Nobles. There's a whole trade agreement between Games Workshop and Barnes & Nobles where you can find other miniatures that are very hard to get in Barnes & Nobles that are a part of like silly board games that all the board games suck, but I collect all of them. But I'd argue that the actual codex entry for Space Marine 2, which goes into the lore, and the articles from White Dwarf and the articles that appeared in 500 Worlds are more canon than the actual gameplay or story elements from Space Marine 1 and 2. The same can be said for Bolt Gun. Like the entire game itself is not canon, but what Kato did is canon. Now, I do have to state this: it's Kato, not Kato Sicarius. It's Malum Kato.
Kato
They
with a
didn't.
D. Kato with a
Yeah,
D.
Kato, not Kato.
Do.
But what he did on the planet is canon. Like he went down there, he got the relic, he found Titus, and he came back. Did he defeat 16 greater demons with just a bolt gun? No. Did he defeat the entirety of the Black Legion? No. Did he fight an entire chaos incursion all at once? No. But the gameplay is different than the actual canon. Battle Sector, I don't know enough about. My bad. Chaos Gate as well. I played
Which
Chaos
one?
Gate for exactly.
The original or the Grey Knight one? By the way, we're in a Grey Knight shirt today because we're talking about canon stuff and weird canon stuff. So I brought my Grey Knight stuff out.
So I would say that the stories around the game and the actual overarching story of the game is canon, not the gameplay.
Okay, it's so here's my statement on this, and everybody's going to hate it. It depends.
It do though.
And Man Like Pegasus has a follow-up here. He says, the game devs and pre-release for these games almost always claim their canonicity, since all modern Games Workshop video games require so much pre-approval from Games Workshop. Well, Man Like Pegasus, I have good news for you. I am, in fact, a game dev. I've worked on Warhammer 40k Regicide, Warhammer 40k Battlefleet Gothic Armada. I worked on 2 different MMOs that were both canceled before they were released. I have a lot of experience working on video games for Games Workshop specifically. And I was the lore guy, you know. I had to talk to them about how lore in the game worked as opposed to lore, and realize that the different regimes of Games Workshop have very different takes on these things. During the Kirby era, which is up until I think 2015-ish, they didn't really care that much about the video games.
They were weird about it.
They were weird. Yeah,
they were like,
strange.
you can't use our canon chapters, so you have to make something of your own, and that's how we got Blood Ravens.
Yeah, which Blood Ravens did appear in the game before they appeared in an Index of Astartes article. I did see a question about that.
Yes.
So video games do require a lot of pre-approval from Games Workshop, and I'll explain why. So when I was working on the role-playing game side of things, the majority of what we sent in for approval was text. Okay, I've got a 400-page book. Most pages is really just text. Some of it's art, but the majority of it is text. And they were always, Games Workshop has always been, and I think always will be, far more concerned about things that are visual as opposed to things that are written down. They want you to see their setting the way that you see it in their products. Like if you pick up a Space Marine, it should look like that Space Marine model. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One example of this is the Astropath model changed when I was working on Rogue Trader. The original Astropath model was not very great. They came out with a new one, and we had already commissioned art based on the existing model. And when the new model came out, before it had even been announced, Games Workshop goes, "Hey, you can't use that piece of art. You have to use a new piece. You have to commission a new piece of art based on the new model." They're extremely focused more on visuals than anything else, which is one of the reasons why video games tend to get a little bit more scrutiny than, say, a Black Library novel, which they kind of really don't care about. And honestly, if you look at the covers of a lot of Black Library novels, they don't seem to care too much about the art either.
No, not really. Especially if you know the Horus Heresy as good as this guy does, look at the front of Horus Rising, and you can point out like 4 helmets that don't exist yet.
There's suffice to say, anyway, but you've got a point in that the newer games are a lot closer, and we can point directly to Captain Titus and say, this guy made the leap from a video game character to like the centerpiece of a whole new release, a major release for the game, which is the 500 Worlds. The Blood Ravens were probably one of the first things to jump from the video game to a canon, because there was an Index of Astartes article about them. But we really haven't seen much about them since that Index of Astartes article. They're mentioned in a few novels, but like codexes and rulebooks wise, you won't really find too many references to them. I don't think I'm not sure there are
There's
any, honestly. So
in a codex, no. Straight up just no.
yeah,
But they have had White Dwarf articles, and they have
yes,
been featured in other things,
sure.
but they're intentionally, well, they were mentioned in Gathering Storm.
Were they?
So
Okay, well there you go.
yeah,
So
they're
all right, so
mentioned,
if
but they're
they're if
not like,
sure, but that's big though. That's actually really big.
yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we have to keep the mention, but they have to be vague enough that the video games can do whatever they want with them. Because that is a chapter that GW has given the green light for them to do whatever they want with. Like, they have a lot more freedom than, say, what the Ultramarines can do.
Well, yeah, and then this is also a category I reserve for films and short films that are produced by Games
Animations.
Workshop. This is I'm not going to say, because actually we were told by Games Workshop that the stuff on Warhammer Plus, like the tithes and the shows that they're showing there, those are canon according to what we were told. But I'm specifically thinking of the Ultramarines movie, and I'm thinking of the old short films that they used to show at Games Days.
Okay, look, we don't talk about that Ultramarine movie.
And productions like Damnatus, which is a fan made movie. Those all go in this category here of 7, where it's very unlikely that they will ever filter up.
So where would you put the Tides episodes?
The Ties episodes? Well, I was told that they were number 1. I was told you could watch those, and they were, so, according to the licensing team that I spoke to as early as last year, they were talking about that Ties went through very strict scrutiny. That Warhammer
now,
Plus.
This also includes the secret level episode, because that was so closely tied with Games Workshop.
I think you can argue that. Basically, if Games Workshop publishes a book and it has Games Workshop on the logo and Warhammer 40k on the logo, right? That's something that they consider canon. And I believe Warhammer Plus is going to be the same exact way. I think if you see it on Warhammer Plus, that is. But I don't believe there's enough data points to make a full analysis of that yet. I'll just say that's what I believe is true at this time. So let's go down number 8, and I'm going to take Man Like Pegasus. I hope that answered your question. Thank you for that very much. All right, number 8, other third-party stuff like comics and Magic the Gathering card art. Strangely enough,
I wanted to add the Magic the Gathering art, because it did get made. I'm just happy about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of like interesting stuff when it comes to the third-party material here, because specifically in comics, there's 2 really cool examples I can think of. One that has become infamous, and one that is actually just awesome. The awesome one is that Demonifuge started out as a graphic novel, and the character Ephriel Stern from Demonifuge made the leap. She actually crossed over from the comics into the novels, into the codexes, and now she has her own model, which is pretty awesome and cool character. And by the way, I really like Demonifuge as comic. So
also, I love all of her lore. I love that she went Super Saiyan, and Cesarak was just looking like, I don't get it. I took away all your warp powers, and he's trying to figure out souls right now, and it's like this whole thing, and it's continued in the Tide series because he's trying to figure it out. I love that. There is one thing I do want to mention in the comics part of this. So Venom, the Spider-Man villain, did briefly show up in Warhammer.
Really?
Yes, there is a Venom comic where he shows up, he looks over, and there's a bunch of Tau, and he sees their big battle suits and everything, and just goes, "Huh, weird," and then leaves.
Well, I'm not counting Easter eggs or cameos, to be clear.
That is an Easter egg. That is not the main focus of it. But the comic book series, I would say the more modern comic book series, like Will of Iron, is more canon than the older comic series, like Death Watch, where the older Death Watch stuff is kind of weird. And it was made just right after Death Watch became a thing, and it was made to try to push the Death Watch, and it was okay. But I think their current run with I think they're running with IDW, but they haven't made a comic this year. I think they're currently working with either IDW or Marvel. I'm praying that it's not Marvel because their Marvel comics were kind of meh. Um, they were okay, but like nothing. It was a whole lot of nothing burgers. But the Marinus Colgar one was pretty cool because he flipped over a giant Catan. Not the Catans of the Necrons, the Catan that's actually the demon engine of the World Eaters, because there are multiple things named Catan in 40k, and each one of them has the little apostrophe in a different area.
Ask me about the number of things named Reavers in Games Workshop at some point. It's hilarious.
Or warriors.
Or death.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I wanted to jump back really quick to the video games. I forgot to mention that there is one video game that I would love to be made 100% canon. Like my favorite video game story to become canon would be Final Liberation.
Oh,
I adore Commissar Holt, and I would love him to be an actual character somewhere. We referenced him as often as I could in the role playing game. You might next time you're paging through your Dark Heresy or your Only War, look for quotes from Commissar Holt because they're in there.
I absolutely love that.
So going back, I was going to say there was that other thing about the comics that was wild, and that is of course Malal, the fifth Chaos God. So in the 1980s, there was a comic book series that Games Workshop was publishing, and these two guys named John Wagner and Alan Grant came up with this guy called Malal. And Malal was a god of anarchy and terror, and he was the fifth Chaos God who was scheming to replace the other four. Well, Games Workshop was like, hey, we're not sure about this, and they got into a rights dispute. Where I believe Grant and Wagner basically just took the rights. Like they have the rights to Malal, and Games Workshop does not have the rights to Malal. So Malal will never be seen again. But Malice is the replacement in universe for Malal. But that's, if you ever hear somebody talk about Malal or Malice, it's all thanks to a comic book in the 1980s and a rights dispute between the comic book artist and writer and Games Workshop. So there you go. That's the other thing. That's all I want to mention about comics. Over to you, Alexis.
So there is actually a reference to Malice in Battlefield Gothic Armada 2, where if you ever follow this is definitely just a joke in the game, and I want to point this out. This is not canon. This is just something you can do in the game. But one of the funniest things is if you follow the lore for Malice or Malal, the Legion of Malice, the Sons of Malice, eventually summoned Malal into the real world. Okay, that was their big thing. They waited 13,000 years and did 13,000 rituals and 13 blah 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 or whatever to summon him in. They summoned him into the real world. There is a mission in Battlefield Gothic Armada 2 where they talk about a Chaos Legion that is called the Sons of Malice that's operating on a planet doing a ritual. And the mission is Admiral Spire goes there and blows up the planet and kills all of them. Every one of them, because the Sons of Malice gathered in full on this planet and left it completely undefended.
So Malal and the Sons of Malice are definitely an Easter egg that you will see crop up in a lot of stuff because people like that sly tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of fun little silly bits of 40k that are still around, and I really like them.
Yeah.
I do want to. There's a quote I want to grab. A comment I want to grab here, which says, let's see here.
Oh, it's right there.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's a super chat. I actually want to grab a super chat, but let's grab all of them. If I'll put them up if you want to.
Oh, I got it. We'll just go through them one at a time then.
Zero Daimu asks, how many in-universe soldiers or vehicles does each model on the table represent, or is it 1-to-1 in your mind?
Okay, so I can actually explain this pretty well. The battlefield that you are seeing in a Warhammer tabletop game of 2,000 points is a simple grid. That is it. It is one part of a 1,000-part battle. You are in one tiny territory, and it's usually the climax of the fight. That is what the tabletop game is supposed to represent. Now, each of those models that you are using is representing where those units could or could not be. So there might be a single tank can represent a tank or could represent a battalion of tanks. It really depends on the lore that you put behind the battle. And that's what it's always been. It's always been this cinematic story that you see at the end of the game. And this is usually the cover art of books, of editions and everything, where they have the two armies like clashing in the middle. That is your 2,000 point game. And I think that's how you should look at the actual tabletop game when you're doing this. If you want to play something bigger, you can play things like Epic or the new Epic, which I honestly forget.
Legiones Astartes.
No, it's not Titanicus. It's
Legiones Astartes.
Is that the newest one? I feel like that's not the name. Why am I going crazy? I can't. Anyway,
it's Legiones Astartes.
The new Epic.
Yes.
That is a bigger grid of what you're going into. That's the battle itself. And you should go upwards of 10,000 points would actually represent an actual full-scale battle, where one of those buildings would represent the entirety of a ruined city that you're battling in a 2,000-point game. Yeah. So, and then if you do a planetary campaign, you could represent the entire battle. So it depends is the answer.
I'm going to back up Alexis. It depends. In my mind, like specifically when I'm playing a game, it is 1-to-1. Like if I have a Space Marine left and he's the last survivor of his squad, he is the last survivor of his squad. But if I'm playing Epic or Legiones Astartes, if I have a stand that shows me 4 miniatures, or 4 Space Marines, it's actually a stand, or sorry, it's 5, I think now.
Legion Imperialis. That's what it's called.
Oh, Legions Imperialis. Okay. I thought it was Astartes.
Like,
all right.
Yeah.
Legions Imperialis. So there you go. Anyway, in Legiones Imperialis and Epic, you have a stand that has like 5 guys on it. That actually represents, in my mind, at a minimum, a full squad up to an entire tabletop army. Because like Alexis was talking about, I tend to picture us zooming in on a very specific small part of the battlefield, a grid square, as she likes to say. And Epic is a very much zoomed out, or Legiones Imperialis is a very zoomed out perspective on that same type of conflict. So it depends. But good question.
I really like this question.
Azure Shadow 88. Where is Forge World on this list? Okay, so Forge World was folded into Games Workshop, and so anything that was Forge World, I am now counting as a number 1. So the Bat of War, the Raid on Castoral Novem, the Red Scorpions, all that stuff, I believe, goes right into number 1. That is canon.
Are you excited for the new Bat of War miniatures?
Yes,
oh my God! Did you see the full release? It was accidentally released in Japanese. And
no.
Oh my God, it looks amazing. We get new Eldar Corsairs.
What? Oh my God, I have to go see this.
But it's not, we don't get anything on dinosaurs or anything. It's just the old Shadow Specters.
Corsairs don't ride dinosaurs. You're thinking Exodites.
I know, but I want Exodites. I want things on dinosaurs. But we get new Corsairs. We're getting 7 new miniatures for the Bat of War. And we might get other chapters from the Bat of War in the 500 Worlds, because the 500 Worlds is going to be a catch-all title for the next series of expansions for Warhammer. And I'm stupid excited. I am so excited I'm here for it.
Me too. I'm thrilled. Lots of new lore to talk about.
Yep. But because Forge World was mentioned, and it is one of my favorite chapters, well, one of my favorite Fallen chapters, I had to bring it up.
Harbinger 444. Thank you, sir. Did you see the minis for the new Maggotkin? Makes me want to buy the models. Sorry, I lost my screen there to an ad blocker update. Can we have an episode dedicated to Grandfather's Love? It is inevitable. We will be talking about all the Chaos Gods, and we will probably have an episode on each one of the 4. So absolutely, we'll talk about Nurgle. He's so gross, but so funny. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
How do you feel about in the later part of 6th and 7th edition that Slaanesh was potentially being removed from the setting?
That would shock me. I don't believe that was. I sincerely don't think that was ever a plan.
I don't think it was actually the plan, but you could see it in the video games themselves where they did not have Slanesh at all.
Oh, well, that's okay. I can explain that.
Well, it's not family friendly.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Slanesh is the yes.
Because boobs are bad, but murder is fine.
I mean, so the thing about Slanesh in 40k or in Games Workshop in general is it's always been the most explicit, not family friendly part of the lore of the IP in any form that they've ever been in. And there's really good reasons why you haven't seen them depicted. Like I doubt they'll be in the Amazon show, for example.
Oh yeah,
So.
I doubt they'll ever be like shown fully doing what they do, but I am glad that the Emperor's Children Codex did not shy away from it and talks about like them constantly doing like hard substances. I'm going to try to keep it PG for the stream to not get demonetized, and they do acts that are depraved to entire populations of planets to make more Emperor's Children. Yeah, they are really messed up, and I absolutely love that they didn't shy away from it. And I love all the new demon models that like the Inferno and Raptoress, who's ripping a guy's nervous system out to play
To
a
make a
harp
harp.
on.
Yeah, that one.
It's so hard, and I love it.
There's a question here. He says, "Did you see the new minis for the new Magickin?" I have not. Have you?
Oh, they're so beautiful. They are absolutely gorgeous. And you can definitely tell that GW is trying their hardest to get rid of the old demon models and separate AOS demons and fantasy demons from 40k demons, which we're probably going to see new kill teams in the future for all 4 chaos gods. And that's going to be the demons in 40k aside from the big ones.
And do we have any more super chats, or is that the end?
That is the end of them currently.
All right. I'm going to take down my list here because we have actually gone through all of it.
How dare you?
I hope that was helpful for you guys, and just keep in mind that is very subjective because that's my take on it, based on my experiences and having spoken to a lot of worked with a lot of the designers and stuff like that. So I feel like it's largely accurate. It may not be entirely accurate.
I would agree with it. I would make one change with current era like comic books and things like that being a little higher than the older comic books.
Yeah, I tried to rank them based on the overall, because there's always going to be that guy who's going to say, well, what about this thing, that came out 30 years ago, and you'll like, I don't remember that dude, it's just,
yeah, true.
But like there's some mobile games from the early 2000s that I know Games Workshop's not a big fan of, for example, early 2010s, I should say. Early 2010s.
Yeah, when they were just shotgunning a bunch of games and all of them failed except Space Marine, which ultimately killed the company.
Yeah, one of the bizarre things about Space Marine 1 and 2 is they were created during the 2 different eras of Games Workshop. The Kirby era gave us Space Marine 1, while the Roundtree era has Space Marine 2. And it's pretty interesting to see the difference about how they approach those. And again, like I could tell you some stories about working on those MMOs, because it was pretty obvious during my first MMO, which was under the Kirby era, that Games Workshop just didn't care. They were just like, yeah, whatever. They were checked out. But it's okay. It's okay. They've gotten a lot better. And I, for one, really admire the Roundtree era with what they're doing with the lore. So, talking about canon some more.
Oh, wait a second. There was one comment. I do want to talk about this. Slanesh is not moving away from this. In fact, they actually explicitly state that they do this in the codex.
Should I read that out loud for you?
No. I think to maintain the stream's monetization, we don't read what they do.
That's true. Okay.
But the AOS demons of Slanesh are definitely moved away from it. They are more based on pride and gluttony, where the 40k ones are way more deprived than they are in Age of Sigmar. And in Old World. Old World demons of Slanesh are just quick. They don't really have too much lore. They're just demons of Slanesh. They just want to get to the fight and kill things.
So I'm gonna talk about some weird old stuff that is no longer canon, and see how many people here remember these things. The original.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to add to this really quickly. Are we going to go through the edition era and talk about what is and isn't canon anymore?
We certainly can. So from I guess we should start there. So Rogue Trader to second edition. This is 1987 to 1993, and this is where we get the Space Marines as cops versus Space Marines as gang members, and like tattoos and mohawks and weird sunglasses and graffiti on their armor,
across their armor.
Yeah.
Your face here on
his hand. Yeah, this is where we get Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau, and this is where we originally get the half Eldar Space Marine, who later became a full Eldar Farseer in the lore.
Yeah, who's now a character that is part of Gilliman's retinue.
Yeah, that's a glow up. That's a big glow up.
I do wonder if like a serf asks and the Eldar just looks over, he just goes, "I'm the chief apothecary, leave me alone." And the guy just goes, "No, I'm the chief what was he? He was a astropath. I'm the chief astropath librarian, leave me alone." And the guy's just like, "Okay," and just walks away, and that's the in joke. That would be really funny if they did a joke like that. I would appreciate it.
That would be funny.
But this is the edition where we have Gene Stealer cult that are not, or Gene Stealers that are not Tyranids.
No, they're just a weird alien.
And Zotes are emissaries of Tyranids, who are also arms dealers.
Right. They didn't know what Tyranids were at that point. Clearly, they had no concept of it. Also, one of my favorite bits from this era is Layman Russ's origin.
Oh yeah, where he's just a captain.
He was just an Imperial commander, not even a captain, who was a mutant. He was a mutant.
And he had 2 dogs.
Well, he still has 2 dogs.
Yeah, but they weren't his parents.
Right?
Because back at this time, he was raised by wolves still and keeps wolves with him, but it's never stated that those wolves are the wolves that raised him, which the 30k one has the wolves that he's raised by, which is very silly.
And this is also when we get the Star Child, the Illuminati, and the Sensei. Do you want me to talk about who those are?
I hate that the Star Child is still current lore. I hate that the Star Child is still a thing.
Well, it's an Easter egg in joke at best. I sincerely don't. It's all about execution, right? Like eventually somebody's going to come up with a great idea and we'll all be like, wow, that was a really cool thing to do with the Star Child.
This is one thing that I need to directly ask, what is his name? Aaron
Dipsky Bowden?
No. Oh my God, I have his name. I can see it, but my mind is just completely blank. It has been eradicated from my mind. I have been hit by a neuralizer.
Some kind of authority on the subject.
Oh my God, I'm drawing complete. But he wrote Our Martyred Lady. Not Andy Law.
Well, that would be easy to solve. Hey,
call him up. But the guy that wrote Our Martyred Lady. It's not an Andy. I think it's not an Andy. That's where I'm getting confused.
Gav Thorpe?
Gav Thorpe, thank you. Oh my God. But I need to directly ask him what he meant when Greyfax said, "I used to hunt down the Star Child until I met Celestine."
I think in that instance, so I have met Gav. I've talked to Gav on a few occasions.
In that same book,
I think what he's saying is that she was chasing rumors and legends. She was chasing the Star Child is that stand-in for Bigfoot in 40k. She was chasing that.
But also in the same book, Celestine says, "I walked beside my father on Terra in one of my older lives." And it's like,
I mean, that's entirely possible. It's just,
I think he meant it as an Easter egg. I honestly think he meant it as an Easter egg.
But
I need to directly ask him.
Or as Bigfoot. I mean, I think that's what I believe. That's the sentiment of the dialogue, is that she's saying, I was chasing Loch Ness Monster when I could have been looking for you.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
But I also think that it's a subtle way of saying that Greyfax and Celestine are a couple.
Listen, I would be okay with that. I'd be more than okay with that.
When I did talk
Ship them.
when I did talk to Gav Thorpe, he definitely was just like, well, they won't let me, but yes. Because GW does have a whole thing about no romance in 40k. It's not directly stated, but there is no good story in 40k, like good guys win story in 40k.
There are no good guys in 40k. It's
Yeah.
only protagonists and antagonists.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Star Child and the Sensei.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you got this.
Okay. So the Star Child, the Sensei, and the Illuminati. In old lore, the Emperor had biological children, and these were called the Sensei, and they were immortals. There was a secret cult called the Illuminati who planned to sacrifice the Sensei, and when this sacrifice was complete, the Emperor Reborn would be reborn as the Star Child, which was kind of this very nebulous, luminous being. I mean, they honestly, they didn't even really know what it was. They were just like, we think it's going to be great. We're going to call it the Star Child. And I believe personally that this was all a tongue-in-cheek reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, it definitely was. It 100% was.
Because in that era, in the first edition era, everything is a tongue-in-cheek reference to some kind of sci-fi or fantasy or pop culture thing.
Yes.
Neglectful says romance is a valid genre and Games Workshop seems to stop pretending otherwise. I agree. I think there's room for it. Look at Cain and Amberly. That's a great love story.
Exactly. Great Celestine.
So that's the Star Child and the Sensei. So what happened to them? Well, we have vague mentions of the Star Child, and the Sensei have essentially been replaced with the Perpetuals.
Yeah, they kind of have.
But here's an important thing for y'all to think about. Perpetuals are kind of a big deal in the Horus Heresy novels. They are never mentioned in the Horus Heresy rulebooks. They have no rules. There are no models. I mean, unless you count Vulcan, which I guess you could technically count Vulcan. But it is one of those things that kind of exists only in the novels and doesn't really influence or impact other things. One of the things I remember talking to Games Workshop about was this idea that a lot of Dan Abnett stuff, which we mentioned earlier as being very influential, they kind of tended to see as its own little universe.
Yeah, the Abnett verse.
The Daniverse is what they called it to me, but you know, sure, Abnettverse, which is this kind of ecosystem where his novels refer to his other novels, and because he wrote so many goddamn many books, you know, it makes up a large chunk of what's available to read, and it influenced a whole lot of other authors who followed him because Abnett was not only one of the biggest, he was one of the first. So his influence on the fiction side. He's a colossus. His shadow falls over almost every book ever published since he started writing for Games Workshop. So you know, if you're a big novel guy and you love what's in the novels, then you know Dan Abnett and what he writes is like probably really core and close to your enjoyment of the hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Just realize that if it's not part of the core rulebooks or the codexes, if it's never mentioned, that means it's probably not canon. It's probably only true for those stories. So anyway, so that was the Sensei and the Star Children.
I do want to mention one thing here. One thing here that's very important. The Zote. Zotes come from fantasy. They are a lizard-like creature. I could literally just grab one. But they're a lizard-like
centaur.
Creature. Yeah, they're a lizard centaur, and it's uniquely 40k. Like it is one of like 3 things that Games Workshop made that is definitely their own. The other 2 being the lizard men and the Skaven.
I'd argue the Femur as well.
Okay, yeah, I would get that as well. But the Zote left after this edition. It was gone. It was just removed from the game because it was deemed too fantasy.
We saw them again in Total War Warhammer 3 as a unit you could play with the Wood Elves. And
then they came back in 10th edition or 9th edition.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yes, in Battlefleet Gothic. No, not Battlefleet Gothic. Sorry, Blackstone Fortress. And then they had rules in an Imperial Agent book. So they had rules in an edition, and then now they're legends. So
I should say actually, like a lot of this stuff is like really neat from a history nerd perspective. For example, like when you say Imperial agents, right? Almost all the nomenclature and the way that they talk about how the Inquisition works and how cells work and how retinues work, a lot of that came from so Gav Thorpe's Inquisitor game, which came out in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s.
It's bad.
Well, it was neat, and it was the first time we learned more about who the Inquisition was. And then you draw
lore.
Right. You draw a line from that to the Eisenhorn books, because that was the same time. And you draw a line from that to Dark Heresy, and Dark Heresy goes really deep into how cells work and how Inquisitors operate and all that stuff, which we based very strongly on Dan Abnett's Eisenhorn books. And then now that, like when you talk about the Imperial Agents Codex, everything that's written in the Imperial Agents Codex is written in a way that it fits into the standards that were built by Gav and then refined by my team, for example. Written by Gav, then written by Dan, then refined by my team. So, yeah, it's interesting. But
which is super cool. We also get some weird creatures that have always been in the lore and then added to the Dark Heresy novels or the Dark Heresy RPGs.
Space vampires.
Yeah, the vampires, the crocodile that can teleport around, which still has rules to this day.
Crotalids.
Those things still have rules. Like, they never appeared anywhere else, mind you. They were just in Rogue Trader, vanished for almost every edition, and then Necromunda. There they are. And it's like, wait, what? And then in second edition Dark Heresy, second edition Horus Heresy, they had rules again, but they were called something different. It was definitely them, though, which is still really cool.
Yeah, well, Alan Bly had a habit of slipping in references to Dark Heresy stuff into the Horus Heresy Black and Red books, which I always made me smile. And there's the Minka-lesque novels for Black Library also directly reference stuff from Dark Heresy, which is really, really cool. So,
and
anyway,
Minka-lesque has an actual model and rules.
Sweet, she's a great character.
Yeah, granted they're Legends rules, but still. But whenever GW releases a character for the more recent editions that is a book character, they tend to go straight to Legends. They typically like stick around for like a little bit depending on what they are, but they will go straight to Legends. The dude from the what is it? The Fire books. I'm drawing a blank. The Ultramarine books.
Dawn of Fire.
Dawn of Fire, thank you. That guy got released and he's in Legends, but they actually do tell you that, hey, you can use this model as the Minka-lesque unit. You can use it as a command squad for Cadians. So it's really cool that, you know, these models that are in the novels get miniatures, which then can be used as anything. I really like it. I think it's a really cool way of GW bringing lore to the tabletop.
So Man Like Pegasus has a bunch of comments here that I'd like to bring up. So first of all, he's got one about Zotes. At Lorebeards, Andy Law explained the history of the Zotes. So we can talk to Andy to find out more about Zotes. Apparently, it came from the CEO or someone in charge who wanted something of their own in the game, and everyone hated it. That makes sense.
We use it in Blood Bowl. I have. So hear me out. I have 3 Zote models. I need one more. I need the original Zote model, and I have every Zote that was ever released.
So Man Like Pegasus is he's a man after my own heart. He likes to be technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. He says, Fomorian is what inspired the Fimir. Fimir are not an original GW idea. You, sir, are technically correct. However, if I may, if we're going to go down that road, then the Skaven are not actually an original Games Workshop idea, because Weir Rats existed in D&D, which, as we know, is prior to Games Workshop even being founded. And I'm sure there were legends of Weir Rats even before that. I'm saying, so in my opinion, like the Fimir as they exist in Games Workshop lore are distinct enough to be considered an original idea. Just like the Skaven, very well, you know, even more because they're super well fleshed out, are an original idea. So
you do know you're doing the cheeseburger argument, right?
Go ahead. What's the cheeseburger argument?
Okay, so whenever you ask a British person, is a cheeseburger American? They say no, it comes from Hamburg, Germany. The Hamburg steak predates Germany. And the Hamburg steak is definitely
Not a
distinctively
cheeseburger.
different than a cheeseburger.
Right.
And the cheeseburger is 1000% American. So I say that the Skaven are 1000% GWs. But that is the hamburger argument. I call it the cheeseburger argument because I like cheese on mine.
So Fomorians are not Femir in the same way that Weir-Rats are not Skaven. They are similar and obviously an influence, but not the exact same thing. That's kind of what I was getting at. Anyway, where were we?
Is there anything? Oh no, we do have to mention one more thing: Chaos Androids.
I was just about to get into the Necron.
These are not Necrons.
They're technically not. They're technically not, but they also are.
Yes, they are Necrons, but they're not Necrons. So this is going to be the driving force of the rest of this episode is Necrons. Necrons and Orcs are the two most retconned armies in all of Warhammer, aside from maybe the major change to Space Marines where they turned them into super soldiers.
Squats, maybe?
I wouldn't say they were retconned. They died, and then their lore got added to. So I consider a retcon like a massive change to the overall lore.
Okay, fair enough.
Where they just got added to.
All right, I will stipulate that they are not the same.
Yes, but Chaos Androids, which recently showed up in a book, which was wild.
Gene Father by Guy Haley. I read it in there.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Hold on. Because I could see Chaos Androids actually making a comeback with Vashtor if they ever decided to go down a Dark Mechanicus road, but that's not what we're talking about. Chaos Androids were the original Necrons. They were an army of robots that were definitely inspired 1000% by the T-800. They were just the Terminator in Warhammer. They fell to Khorne mostly, which is kind of weird, but okay. Some of them had the Chaos Star. A lot of the other kit had the Khorne Star. We never got any with any of the other Chaos Stars on them. It was just the 8-pointed star or Khorne.
Which is bizarre. Like I don't see Khorne choosing androids. Where's the rage? Where's the frenzy?
Well, the weird thing about Khorne is he has the most demon engines.
True.
Like the most unique demon engines belong to Khorne for some reason. And
that is true.
It's so weird. But these things just appeared. They had a rule, and that was it. They were just a thing that you could make in Rogue Trader. They weren't an actual race. They were just something that existed. But we also have to preference that Rogue Trader was a TTRPG. It was not a war game. These are distinctive. It was a skirmish game with role-playing elements, but it wasn't a war game yet.
It's kind of a role-playing game, and it's also kind of it's very much a transitory point between one and the other.
Yes, I will agree with that. But I would not call it what we call tabletop war games of today. I would consider it closer to a skirmish game of today. I would consider it in the same vein as a Necromunda Necromunda. I would compare it almost directly to Necromunda because Necromunda kept a lot of the same rules. But that's the Chaos Android. Let's move on to 2nd edition.
Oh, okay. Well,
so Necrons in 2nd edition.
there's one thing I do want to bring up about 2nd as the Arkan Land, which we're going to do a whole episode on Arkan Land at some point.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, and I love how sassy he is. My favorite line with him is when a Chaos Space Marine breaks in and, well, not a Chaos Space Marine, but a heretic Marine breaks in and starts shooting his machinery, and he's like, "Come on!" And he's just mad at him, like not trying to kill him or anything, just mad.
He's a retcon. Arkan Land is just really a justification because Games Workshop had products called Land Speeders and Land Raiders.
Yep.
Long before Arkan Land was ever mentioned.
Yep.
And I think what happened was they were like, okay, so why are these things called Land Raiders and Land Speeders? And they said, okay, well, they're highly advanced, so we'll make them this guy Arkan Land. He shows up. He's a techno-archaeologist who discovered STC blueprints for these things, which is why they're named after him. This is one of the most famous examples of Games Workshop backfilling from one of their their model kits to give it an in-universe hook. And honestly, Ark and Land, like you say, is cool. And yeah. I like, I mean, I don't think it's the greatest backfill, but it's pretty interesting. And it is always a fun one to talk about, because a lot of people are like, wait, what? His name is Ark and Land? Yeah.
So one of my favorite things is that GW is very, very infamous for taking a Mechanicus character of some description and just, oh, they're the guy that did this. Belisarius Cawl making the Primaris Space Marines and then existing in the Heresy. It's a really good example of this.
Zero Daimu points out that Andy Law has mentioned before that in very old Warhammer, the Chaos Gods had a lot of associations which have been lost over time. This is true, and this is also true for 40k. Like Khorne to technology and Tzeentch to necromancy. Yes, and Andy, Andy is also primary canon. I would argue, because that dude knows his stuff extremely well.
I did want to mention one thing about first edition Rogue Trader. There were 7 Chaos Gods. There were minor Chaos Gods mentioned in the book. Weirdly enough, Malice isn't one of them.
Yeah, and I think there's been at least one semi-official, like this is one of the Lost Legions things that they put out about it.
Yeah.
There's a consensus. The consensus seems to be that those things were so out there that nobody ever thought they were real, I think.
Yeah.
So we talked about Ark and Land. Second edition also changed. Oh, there actually were female Space Marines in first edition as well.
Yes, there was.
Gabs and Jane, 1988. Yep.
And I do want to mention this story because I have told this story 1,000 different times. The reason that GW didn't continue with the female Space Marines, I hate saying female Space Marines because it sounds sexist. I like just saying Space Marines, women Space Marines, because it sounds more, yeah. But anyway, the reason that GW discontinued them was because of low sales. They also looked horrendous. And the Sisters of Battle outsold them. They just looked cooler. And that's pretty much it. And then GW just decided never to go with female Space Marines because they had the Sisters of Battle.
Well, just like any other large corporation, Games Workshop has had issues with sexism at different points.
What?
I think they're doing a lot better now than they were in the past, just to be really, really clear. And I'm not slamming them and saying they're a sexist corporation. I'm just saying that they have had issues with it in the past. And that's probably true of essentially any company that operates at their level, which is an unfortunate fact of life in our current society. But there it is.
I am shocked. I've never noticed this in the history of forever.
So first and second edition also featured a major faction that was allied to the Imperium. Was mentioned several times and was included in almost every release for first and second edition. What was that faction, Alexis?
It was the Squats.
That's right. The Squats. And
GW did not know what to do with them, so they discontinued them.
Yeah, very famously, Jervis Johnson came forward and said, listen, we didn't know what to do. And they just decided to have them all eaten by Tyranids and move on. A lot of people were upset by this. You guys, I don't know how old you guys are out there. I gotta admit. So this is definitely a Gen X kind of thing. But it was a big, big, big deal 25 years ago. People were losing their minds because their whole army had just been eaten by Tyranids and they couldn't play it anymore. And it was in the early days of the internet, this was an easy way to start up a firestorm, would be to go and talk about the Squats and what happened to the Squats. It even later became a verb. Such and such has been squatted, as in it's been removed from canon. It's probably the most infamous and most impactful thing that's ever been pulled out of the canon to this day that I can think of.
Mm-hmm. In fact, it was so bad that when Heresy First Edition came out, they snuck the Squats back into canon.
Yeah.
In First Edition, Second Edition, and even Third Edition Heresy, you can play Squats, but they're Imperial Militia that are kindred. They're not Squats, but they get +1 toughness and -1 movement.
Well, even in the early 2000s, when I was working at Games Workshop, you had the Demiurge, which was a way they tried multiple times to bring the Squats back. And one of the first ways they tried to do this was with the Demiurge, which was a species that had models only found in Battlefleet Gothic.
Yep.
And
it was supposed to be like one miniature, like one model, one guy per ship.
Yeah, because it was like fully automated. It was
yeah.
a fully automated mining ship that they flew around in. And they were allies to the Tau, along with the For All, which we've never heard from ever since, or the Nisisar, which we've never heard from since. So there were three minor species. It was Holy Artist 95. I feel you. It was an ancient time back then. Yes, do not speak to me of the ancient magic. I was there when it was forged.
You were there when it was removed.
I was there when it was removed. So they're back.
Squats.
Well, the squats came back though. They're back now. The Leagues of Votan are the squats. They're mentioned. So squats as a name exists in current Necromunda as well.
But it is stated in the Necromunda lore that those squats are actually kindred that own the planet of Necromunda, which is really funny because they own the rights to Necromunda. And I think that's hilarious that they're fighting over it and there's a whole squabble about it. But they are kindred. They are Votanian. I refuse to call them anything else than Votanian. I think that's hilarious. But we now also know in 10th edition that the Demiurge are actually just also the Votan, and they're the trade partners of the Tau. And they trade Tau technology that they deem kind of bad. That's where the Tau ion weapons come from, is from the Votan. And the Votan have them as just short-ranged weapons that they can carry around, where the Tau need battle suits and gunships to carry them.
Cobalt 59 says, so what's the proper term for squats? Dwarf is fantasy, Votan is their ancient core thing. Squat feels like a slur. Oh, it does. It definitely does.
But I would still call them squats.
Kin feels generic. I agree with that. Obviously, I think Votan is the closest thing that we could say that doesn't feel like a slur and doesn't feel generic. So I'm going to go with Votan. Votanian is also really cool, so we'll go with that. All right. So that was first and second edition. Those are some of the biggest changes from there.
Oh wait, no, we're not done with second edition yet.
Okay.
So second edition introduced the orcs properly, and second edition had a lot of orcs that are GW stepped away from real quick. And this includes the infamous orc storm boys, which were definitely let's just say ice agents. Terrible joke, I know. But these guys were dressed up as a very particular army from World War II. You guys know which one I'm talking about. And they were quickly removed right after second edition, and third edition made new Storm Boys.
Yeah, because they looked like they were straight up Nazi Germany SS troops, which is wild.
Yeah.
Gabriel High 8 Base points out the Nisisar do show up in recent books. Cool. Tell me which one. I'd like to go check it out.
Yes. But I do also want to mention that in second edition, orcs could breathe in space. And this was when the power of belief was real. Like this was when if they believed something, it worked. There's tons of stories about this. One of my favorites is that a space marine is going toe to toe with an orc. He's shooting his pistol at the orc. The orc dodges somehow, and then the space marine throws his gun to his side and picks up his chainsword and is about to charge the orc. But the orc sees the gun on the ground, picks it up, and shoots the space marine, even though there's no ammo in it. And the justification is the orc thought there was ammo in it. This is also the same edition where orcs take canisters, fill them with bolts, throw them into their guns, and just start firing like crazy. And because they think their gun is loaded, it works. This is also the same edition that has one of my favorite orc stories, which includes two orcs outside of a spaceship with no spacesuits on, fixing the wings of a spaceship, because that's how it flies, obviously, with wings in space. But then the mech boy pokes his head out the window of a spaceship and goes, "Oi, you forgot your buckets." To which the orcs look up and instantly die.
Yeah, it was Looney Tunes logic.
Yeah.
In second and third edition, orcs ships basically just their control panel was like one big red button.
Yep, they would just hit the red button and that was it. They would just go forward and hope for the best.
Micah has a point here. Micah says the power of belief was nerfed, but I'm glad it's still there. Micah, I have bad news for you, buddy.
Yeah.
I have bad news.
The power of belief is not really
it's not a thing anymore. It's not a thing, which is a bummer. I
We'll get
was
to that.
I really loved it, and one of my favorite headcanons was that Yarrick was getting was kept alive by the power of the belief of the orcs that he would eventually face Gaskell, and he just couldn't die. But it, obviously that's no longer true. But that was my headcanon, 20 years ago up till today, up till 2017 or whenever they killed off. Okay, doke.
So, also, we have to mention Necrons in second edition. This is when they finally got their army.
Go do the whole Necron rant. Just do it. Do the whole thing.
But there's so much. Okay.
Old Crons and new Crons.
All right. So second edition introduced the Necrons as an army. The Necrons were a automaton race that was hell-bent on destroying all life in the galaxy. They could not speak. They could not do anything. They were just there to destroy you. This was incredibly boring, and that was pretty much it for second edition. They were a blurb that had like 3 or 4 units. They had a destroyer, they had a lord, they had warriors, and that was it. That was their whole army at the and scarabs, and that was their whole army at the time. That was it. And then third edition fleshed them out at a little bit more, and then fourth edition gave them the Catan. If you guys don't know, Catan, Satan, however you want to pronounce it. It just means Satan. Like, that's it. It means devil or evil, which is hilarious.
No, they were Satan in third edition. They were star gods, and all the Necrons were like slaves to them.
Yes, third and fourth edition are where they expanded upon them.
Yeah.
But the Satan were a fart cloud in space that fed on stars. The Necrons talked to them. The Necrons gave them necrodermis, which was a living metal skeleton that the Necrons were made out of, and the gods became like beings that we see back in those editions, which was the Nightbringer, the Deceiver, and well, that was pretty much it.
It was the Nightbringer and the Deceiver, yeah.
Yeah, they had other gods, but they were never named at this time. The Deceiver tricked the Nightbringer into devouring the first Necron, in which case they started eating all of their souls, and then they enslaved the Necrons. And they were the gods. They were not shards of gods. They were not this or that. They were just gods. They can augment reality. They could destroy entire planets. They were super powerful. And then you actually fought them on the tabletop, and they were incredibly weak. It was actually rather a shame that a 5-man Melta team could kill a god. It was just kind of a thing, you just walk up and go, oh, I killed a god. Cool. Just a Tuesday for a Space Marine.
Nightbringer featured in a lot of novels at the time. Actually, when Uriel Ventress's first novels were coming out, he was dealing with the Nightbringer, for example.
Yep. The lore side of it, the actual novels did way more to the Necrons, and they tried their hardest to make them like give them personalities, and then they finally got through to Games Workshop and gave them personalities.
Fifth edition.
Towards the tail end of fourth edition, lords could talk. Lords and pariahs, and then pariahs disappeared.
That's true.
Pariahs were humans that were dipped into necrodermis and removed of soul, maybe. And they were given a war scythe. I don't know why, but they were given a war scythe, and for some reason they just followed the Necrons from then forth. It's never stated. It's basically just they became a slave of the god. But then 5th edition came out. 5th edition decided to retcon all of that because all of that was stupid. GW moved away from having gods on the tabletop. Now everything sharded themselves. The Emperor...
I see what you're doing there. I see that. Sharded.
The Emperor sharded. The Avatar was a shard. The Catan were sharded. Gorkamork disappeared. Pretty much at this time, there were no longer Gorkamork were actually a thing in 2nd edition. They were actual beings, and then they disappeared.
Well, they're still beings. I mean, they exist as gods. They're just they're a lot more removed. God. Yeah, they're so like current edition lore, all gods are very removed, cosmic storm like things. Jesus Christ.
You're never gonna think of it any different.
I'm not. You've planted that seed. There you go.
But this is when the War in Heaven was really fleshed out, kind of. The War in Heaven is a constant storm of retconning and 4 different wars that are all named the War in Heaven that all take place at different times because GW names everything that the Necrons and the Eldar are involved in the War in Heaven, and I hate it.
The old ones, which
Yeah.
were at one point the Slann.
Yep.
Or the Slani,
Slani.
as they were called, yeah.
So back in third edition, the Necron gods, the Satan gods themselves went to war with the old ones, and they just defeated the old ones. And then it cost them so much energy that they had to go to sleep. And they slept for thousands of years. And also at this time, the orcs actually defeated the Nightbringer by punching them. And that's why orcs don't fear death. And that is in Wa Orcs. And it is some of my favorite lore. And they potentially could also see through any lie, but they choose not to, is another orc lore tidbit from second edition because they like enemies trying to trick them.
The Brain
But anyway,
Boys.
yeah, exactly.
There was a whole echelon of orc culture that
Yep.
has been more or less, I mean, I won't say entirely ignored, but mostly ignored.
Yeah, like Scar Boys are gone, Cyborgs are gone, but there's still upgrades now and then. But getting back to the War in Heaven. So the first War in Heaven had the actual Satan, the real gods fighting. Um, that was retconned. Now it's the enslaved gods fighting, and then that got changed. Now it's the Necrons and the Satan fighting, and then after the battle, the Necrons fight against the Satan and destroy them. But in doing so, they split across the entire galaxy like the Shikon Jewel, and anybody that finds a piece of it can throw out a Pokeball and summon the Nightbringer, which would be horrifying if you tripped over it.
The Shikan Jewel, wow, that's a
you got that reference.
Deep cut. That's a deep cut.
But in 5th edition, this all got changed again. The Necrons were given personality. This is when Trzin became... Trzin wasn't the Trzin that we knew yet. He was just a deceiver. He was not the deceiver. He was like a trickster. And the lords started becoming more powerful. There were overlords introduced, and the hierarchy of Necrons started becoming an actual thing. And it was at this time that the Necrons keep their gods enslaved. This is the big change. They take shards of them and they keep them in monoliths or big constructs. I can't remember what their super heavy was called at the time, but it keeps the Necron obelisk. Thank you, brain. But it keeps a Satan in using it as a battery, essentially. This is also when they gained space travel. Because Battlefleet Gothic was written at this time and the Necrons were added to, and Necron tomb structures became their spaceships, and they fly through space by vibrating their molecules and teleportation so they can fly faster than light. And the Necron energies are so powerful that they can deconstruct or absorb matter or just obliterate matter. Their weapons changed from being space vacuum cleaners that sucked up molecules to this more horrific death ray that disintegrates things that it hits because it affects them on a molecular level and causes them to just fall apart, which is honestly terrifying and it's really cool. But 6th edition is when they started getting more characterful. Like Trzin became the gay best friend. Personalities were added. The death cults were added because no army's complete without a death cult. The Destroyer cult and the Flare cult became a thing, which were curses by their gods. And we got all of this crazy new stuff for the Necrons. Now, you would think that that's the end of their retconning.
But it's not.
No, it isn't. So then they had all of their other gods added. Their other gods were name dropped in other sources. And in the most latest thing, we got the Silent King coming back. And then his lore changed the old lore of the Silent King, where the old lore of the Silent King was that he was the overall leader of the Necrons, and everyone followed what he said at all times, not out of respect because they had to. The new lore stated that he got rid of his commander protocols and he stopped the ability for Necrons to go to certain timelines because things have to happen a certain way for him to do his plans. And he doesn't have the overlord protocols anymore, so people follow him out of respect instead of following him because they have to. He was then added to Sanguinius's lore and that was never explained, and Sanguinius never talked about it during the heresy. You would think that would come up in a book at some point.
Yeah, I want to say there's a reference to it, but anyway, yeah, you may wonder why we're going on and on about Necrons in an episode about 40k canon, because there are only 4 hard retcons that I was able to find in my research, and Necrons are one of them. Malal is another one. The Squats are the third, and then the original 13th Black Crusade is the 4th one.
Yep.
Which we're going to talk about. But finish, please.
That is the end of Necrons. The Necrons of current edition in no way resemble the Necrons of the other 4 canon-ish. What are we calling the verse?
Era?
Yeah, canon eras.
Yeah, the canon eras, yeah.
See, that's why he's a writer.
Man Like Pegasus says, I thought Gilliman and the elf were a thing. In my headcanon, they are. There absolutely are in my headcanon.
Gav Thorpe once told me that if he was allowed to, they would 100% be a thing. Okay, so that's the end of the Necron thing. Orcs changed a lot over the years as well. The orcs of the power of belief and colors being magical and water balloons being able to kill orcs if they're filled with white paint is no longer a thing. So nowadays, orcs are the more orcs that gather, the bigger the orcs get, the smarter they get, and the more innate knowledge they unlock in their DNA. So the power of belief is they don't have a way of communicating how their technology works, but their technology does work based on their understanding of technology.
Yeah,
they can't understand it.
They're basically programmed by the old ones to have innate knowledge of how to build stuff that nobody else understands. That's the new lore.
And this lore first came out in the Beast Arises series, which is it is a series. It is definitely one you can skip. But in the Beast Arises series, there were orcs that were so big and orcs so numerous that they could weaponize entire planets and moons, and they had teleportation technology that was perfect. They can steal anybody's stuff and make it work for them. The current edition of orcs are, yeah.
Ricardo Andre asks, what is the difference between a hard retcon and a soft retcon? Hard retcons mean that it is either completely gone, like the squats were just gone,
yep.
Or it has changed unrecognizably, like Necrons, or it is a completely different timeline, like the 13th Black Crusade that we were going to talk about, or, yep. Well, Malal and the squats share the same fate. They're just gone, and Malal will, I don't believe Malal will ever return because it's a rights issue. So that's a difference.
That's just going to be a joke going forward, is Malal.
So that's the difference between a hard retcon and a soft retcon. Hard retcons are major, that's not how I remember it type retcons, as opposed to soft retcons where it's like, oh really, oh okay, and it's just like a minor switch or change, like the Tau FTL drive used to be this thing called an ether drive, and now it's just like and then it used to be like skipping a stone across the warp, and now it's something different. Okay, that's fine. But that doesn't change who the Tau are. It doesn't change references to the Tau. It's a soft retcon because it doesn't remove them or make them unrecognizable in the setting.
I think another soft retcon would be a Carnifex fought Khalgar in the 4th edition, but in 5th edition it was a Hive Tyrant, and then in 6th or 7th edition it was the Swarmlord.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't fundamentally change the story. Khalgar still gets, his arms and belly chopped and somehow gets away, which is a Monty Python reference if you didn't know. It's just a flesh wound, and that's how he got away. But yeah, a hard retcon to that would be like Khalgar was killed.
I mean, for the orc thing about their genetic knowledge, I've always wondered if they're not going to somehow connect that to the Jakaro.
Yeah, I've wondered that one too.
Anyway, so let's talk about the last hard retcon, which is the 13th Black Crusade.
All right, you're going on this rant because
I was there. I was there in 2003. Yeah, I was at the Games Workshop headquarters. Yes, I'm an old man. So while I was working at Games Workshop, the 13th Black Crusade happened, but then it didn't happen. And actually, this has to do with internal politics at Games Workshop at the time. The 13th Black Crusade was the brainchild of Andy Chambers, who had been the overfiend of 40k for several years at that point. He had been a major part of the tonal shift between first and second edition. He was a major part of the kind of laying down the foundation of 40k and what happened between second and third edition. And so we get to fourth edition, and Andy Chambers is like, cool, now we're going to move the timeline forward. I saw that quote. Micah was saying, I was there when they blew up Cadia. Well, they didn't blow up Cadia in this version. In this timeline, the 13th Black Crusade was stopped. They were beaten soundly. You know why? Because it was a global campaign, and they counted all the victories, and 99% of players were Space Marine players. So they just racked up the victories like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
And the reason why this ceased to be is because Andy left the company right after this. There's always been a lot of rumors, and like Andy Chambers is really the only guy you can go speak to find out like his side of that story. So I'm not going to try and tell it too much. I'll just say some acrimony between people at Games Workshop, and Andy Chambers ended up leaving to go do miniature games at other places. I think he went straight to he did Starship Troopers, I think was the next game he did after he left 40k.
Man, I want that game to be like be the next big thing.
My understanding, having spoken to guys like Alan Merritt and some of the other big IP guys at Games Workshop, my understanding was at the time is that it was very the idea of pushing the timeline ahead or making any major changes to the timeline was seen as a bad thing. They had just recently decided to go to incorporate as a public. They basically gone from a game studio to a corporation, okay, and they were looking to expand and build on their business side, which meant big changes to their cash, their major cash flow, which was 40k, was seen as a major problem because we literally just incorporated. We are now a corporation. Again, it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but that's why that is a alternate history, kind of like the Storm of Chaos is for Warhammer Fantasy.
Yep.
They just decided, nope, that did not happen, and moved on. And that's the fourth hard retcon.
Oh, somebody did want us to bring this up. Elephant in the room. What about female custodies? That's a soft retcon. What's weird about this one though is that no one threw a fit when night pilots were made from just being males to anybody. And that was actually because of a video game company this is one of the good things that Dawn of War 3 did was give us female pilots for Imperial Knights and Titans. So that's pretty cool. But the whole female custodian thing, it is what it is. It was a fiasco when they released it because Warhammer Community handled it poorly. Honestly, I didn't think much of it. They're just custodians.
The pilot of a night is called the Scion, FYI.
Yeah.
So, all right. So cool. So we've covered all the hard retcons. There's a lot of fun little bits, but I don't know how much we want to go into detail on that. Alexis had a really cool idea though before we started the stream, and she was saying that we should take some time to talk about some things that we wish were canon. Right? Isn't that what you meant? So why don't you explain your thinking on this, and then we'll start we get some comments from you guys.
Things that I wish were canon. One is the Titan drop pod. It's mentioned in one book that they drop Titans in giant drop pods.
Drop keeps. Drop keeps are knights. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Drop keeps are for knights. Titans are landed by bulk landers. There's actually a class. We came up with a ship class for it for Rogue Trader.
Yep.
And we mentioned, but it's only one. We did. So one of the things you can't do is you can't say that something is true Imperium wide. Like this is true for all worlds. So instead you make a pattern. You say this particular pattern of ship is sometimes used, and that's how we got around that.
I also want the power of belief back. I like that orcs can understand things as they get smarter, but I want that understanding to be of the enemy.
Power of belief. Would
I
love to
want
have that
their
back.
power of belief to still be the thing that drives them. Let's see. What would you like to add?
Well, I mentioned Final Liberation is a big one that I would like to see become canon. I love everything about Final Liberation, and it would be a lot of fun to make that real. Let's see. There's some pretty interesting stuff that happens in the novels. Like I would love if the Gaunt's Ghost novels were straight up canon. Like everything that happened. We know that Gaunt's Ghosts themselves, got models and got rules, but those models and rules are largely gone from the current edition and the current range. And I think that's true for most Black Library guys who get models and rules. They are very much on the fringe and not. They're usually not in like a core codex. But I'd love if all the events of the Sabatine Crusade were legit and real and had models and rules, because there's so many cool characters and so many cool bad guys and so many cool things like the stock tanks. I'd love to see a model for a goddamn stock tank, please.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm gonna throw out there is everything Sabbath Crusade related. Micah says Chaos Votan for sure. I would love to see that as canon. Okay, interesting.
I wonder if there's enough Votan to actually fall. Like obviously Votan. Well, I say obviously, but Votan in their lore are warp resistant. Like, which is a nod to dwarves being chaos resistant. So yeah. I think they can have, how to put this, their AIs could go rogue. So they could have like the Ironkin go rogue. That would be kind of cool. And they themselves have to now fight the supercomputer that raised them.
That would be neat. I would actually, Blood Ravens from Dawn of War would be fun to make a main chapter with characters and everything. That would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Idley one says, Commissar Holt, you, sir, are a man of culture, and I appreciate you. We got a couple
of for Titans.
They is that something you'd want to be canon? Because I agree, that would be cool. But there's do we have super chats we need to read too?
Let's see. Yep. Boom.
Ricky Chapman, 3377. Welcome back, Ricky Chapman. Currently playing a 40k match, our orcs versus Ultramarines. What?
Hell yeah.
If you've ever been to a games day or ever worked a games day like I have, the orc players, you can hear them everywhere.
So the WA is also like infamous for Warhammer players, because a lot of people will go into game stores and some guy will be screaming this at the top of their lungs, and us war gamers are just like, yeah.
Listen, if he's passionate about it, I am down.
Yep.
I'm down. Friender Trader, my dream fanon is that Be'lakor is actually Horus. Huh.
Okay, so hang on. Hold on. So Be'lakor is a human, was a human, who became a demon prince and is the first demon prince, which is super important to the setting. But it doesn't stop him from becoming a creature, getting possessed and becoming Be'lakor, and then because he exists in the current timeline and the warp, he has thus always existed.
Well, Be'lakor definitely exists in 40k, and Horus definitely existed in 40k.
Yeah.
So you're off to a strong start, and then
although there is another theory that I like in Aaron Densky Bowden's book, the Talon of Horus. Thank you, Brain. In Talon of Horus, a being, Abaddon looks into the Eye of Terror. Okay, he looks into the Astronomicon. Sorry. And his eyes turn gold from this. But he sees a being and talks to it. Now, logic dictates that it's probably Malkador that he's talking to, who has become one with the Astronomicon. But
I don't think that's logical at all, actually.
I think it is, because that's where his soul would end up, aside from being burnt out.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that, but all right, fair enough.
But he does talk to a being that he knows, and that's important because Horus only knows like two different people. Not Horus, sorry, Abaddon. I think it is either Abaddon, Horus, or Malkador that he is talking to. That is the avatar of the Astronomicon.
It's almost certainly the Emperor. I'm gonna put that out there.
Oh yeah, probably. Watch it just be Celestine. Hi.
According to chat, Bellicor is actually an elf, not a human.
Well, not in 40k. In 40k, it's strictly only humans can become demon princes.
Look, man, he's a crossover character. I don't know. I didn't bring him in. It's not. Don't blame me. Colby Carry On 9378. Thank you, sir. What non-canon faction do you think could become canon in Total War 40k, like Grand Cathay, then given models on tabletop? Ooh,
Legions of Vashtor.
Yeah,
I want Dark Mechanicum.
Dark Mechanicum would be freaking rad. I think that would be my first place to go to. Would be Dark Mechanicum. Yeah, okay, but let's maybe look a little further afield. Like, what are some other things you could see as a faction that doesn't have models right now?
A full Kroot army, including the big ones that have like the big guns on their backs. The Kroodox, not the Kroodox, the Narlox. Thank you, Brain.
Micah says Severin Dominant. Yeah, Severin Dominant would be cool. I'm always down for including Severin Dominant.
If they really want to include a Slanesh-based army, Corrupted Sisters of Battle with demon allies.
We do know that sisters can be corrupted. Well, yeah, Dark Mechanicum is the one that makes the most sense. It is legit. Like it's been mentioned so many times. It's been talked about so many times. We know it was a major part of the Horus Heresy and all these other things. It just makes sense to me that it would be Dark Mechanicum would be the first place. Expanding beyond that, it's like 40k doesn't have a lot of unexplored areas like Fantasy did for a very long time, where they would just mention something and then never talk about it again. But 40k does have some species that haven't been given a lot of love. Are there more Vespids? Oh, Exodites. Of course. Why didn't I think about Exodites? Oh my god.
I also want to grab this one before. Yeah.
Bellicor is usually depicted as a human. There was a Lorebeards theory. Andy proposed that he was an elf based on his name. Oh, okay. Well, if Andy says no, I guess I'm thinking he probably was a human. Just names get weird in 40k. They do.
Yes, they do.
Ferrus Manus means iron hands. He's in charge of the iron hands. What does he have? Actual iron hands.
Yeah. Angron, angry.
He's so angry. All angry all the time. But Exodites might bring Sotek into 40k, says Men Like Pegasus. And yeah, that would be rad. Exodites would be my big pick.
The Yunari. An actual Yunari faction that has unique units.
Agreed on that too.
Not just a mix. Oh, speaking of Eldar, the Harlequins.
Well, they exist as a faction. They
do, but I want expanded factions.
Okay, but the question was about things that haven't been brought in yet. So.
Okay, fair enough. But I could wish list.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Mike Hates Peasants points out his ship is called the Hand of Iron. Yes. Yeah, they really went in. They went all in on First Manus. Names get weird. That's why I think he probably was just a human. And knowing what I know about fantasy, it doesn't make sense for him to be an elf. So there's that. Hey, Rat Gall says Face Octopus. Yeah, bro. You're a man of culture. Rat Gall.
Also,
cool. Slough would be rad.
Bellicor Shadow Legion, including like unaligned demons, like actual like greater unaligned demons, would be really cool. I know a lot of people are saying Hrud army, but I don't see it.
Hrud. So yeah, Andy convinced me on this one. Andy was like saying Skaven are so unique to fantasy that it would actually kind of undercut them or diminish them to be also in 40k. And I was like, he's got a point. We don't really need rat aliens. It's fun to think about them. I enjoy thinking about them from time to time, but as a whole faction, I think it actually is a bad idea. So I'm going to put that out there. Yeah. Ricardo Andre. Go ahead.
What if I told you you could play Skaven in the Horus Heresy by playing Imperial Militia and using mutants and Never-Ending Swarm?
You could. Ricardo Andre points out, since when does lack of mention mean non-existence? Xenos has a pitiful amount of characters compared to humans. Alongside a lot of his Astartes become DP. I'm not sure what that is. And they aren't exactly humans either. No, Astartes are post-humans.
Demon princes.
Demon princes. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's saying that, I believe what Ricardo Andre is saying is that because Astartes can become demon princes, it means non-humans can become demon princes. Which that makes sense to me. That is legit. Like I actually think he's right.
I would fully agree with this. Like it makes total sense that other things can become demon princes. But GW has gone out of their way to say that demon princes in 40k are only humans. Or human-like.
Beastmen, says men like Pegasus, make them a full faction like your fantasy. We discussed this on our What If, right? About the Kroot?
Yes.
We discussed this as like we would love to see a full Beastman faction in 40k. Although it might be more, again, to make them a little more unique than just the fantasy army. I would actually think make them more like a mutant faction. Like it's all a lot of different kinds of mutants or abumens, so if you will.
Like a renegade mutant.
Felinoids. Felinids. You can have felinids, you can have ratlings, ogrins, and I'm just saying it would be cool to separate it somehow from the fantasy side. Micah points out there is a Beastman kill team. Yeah, we did mention that. We mentioned that in the Kroot episode. I think.
But yeah, there's a good amount of armies that we could see. Well, that's the thing. There's not many things in Warhammer that could become armies because of the Horus Heresy killing everything. But we could see a full squig army.
Ricardo Andre asks, Alexis, can you provide said source? I have never heard of it, and it would diminish chaos a lot if they can only elevate humans, while Chaos Eldar exist also. Do they?
So Chaos Eldar are Throne Worlders, and they are mentioned, but don't exist.
Yeah,
Like Eldar that have fallen to Chaos are usually possessed after death.
If that's a bold statement, sir. Let's just put it that way. It's a bold statement. But Alexis, can you provide a source for the humans?
The Demon Prince thing actually comes from. It comes more from like Andy and Sotek, to be honest, where they said that when they introduced a elf demon character, Total War, they had to be very specific to say that it wasn't an elf anymore because they have no miniatures of elf demons anymore.
Well, according to what I know about fantasy, and again, I spoke with a lot of the designers and stuff about these things, is that certain species just don't mutate. They don't get corrupted physically. And what I was told at the time is that elves in fantasy and Eldar in 40k, if they get corrupted by chaos, it's all mental. It's all like they go insane or but they don't physically like change. So that's what
a lot of the same thing appears in Warhammer 40k. There is no corruption table for Eldar. There is just mental mutations.
That's what we were told. So
yeah, that's for 40k as well. There's only mental mutations.
Oh shit, this is a great idea. Hang on, I got to bring this up. Man like Pegasus, how about Gretchen Grotz getting their own faction?
Oh,
the Red Gobbo! Yes. Red Gobbo
faction.
Hell yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would love to see that.
What I'm saying is there's no lore source for this. There is they don't produce the model so that it will never happen reason behind it. And it kind of sucks. Yeah.
All right. Moritz Vanderborch says, what about T'Challa? Listen, go ask Andy about T'Challa. He'll be happy to talk to you about her for a long time. But the bottom line is that at one point in time, Games Workshop was like, yes, she's an elf. That is no longer true.
Yeah.
Or it is now she's a very, very fringe thing that even Games Workshop was like, what? You want to bring in who? From where? When they brought her into Total War. So and remember,
very specific about her.
Remember, Total War is on that, the video games are on that list of canon. It's pretty low. So yeah. All right. Do we have any super chats that I missed?
I'm not sure.
No. I think we're all caught up. Okay.
Heck yeah.
So
what are other things that you want to see in the canon chat?
Yeah, let's bring up some other things that could be, should be, would be canon. if they could find a way to rescue Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau somehow, I don't know how you do it.
That would be really funny. That would be really funny.
You'd have
Oh
to,
wait, how would you do it? Hang on. It would be Obi-Wan. How does it spell Clouseau?
I would do like
C.
I would have his first name be Obi, his middle name would be Wansher, and his last name would be Loxo.
Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. If you do a weird spelling of like a weird acronym for his name, you can almost get Obelisk.
There you go.
And then have him be exactly the same character. And the name is actually just a joke on it if you just go through it.
Face Octopus 4571 says, I think an aquatic Xenos race that needs life support suits to fight on land would be cool.
The Shaharidan.
The what now?
The Shaharidan. They are mentioned once.
Oh.
All the way back in Rogue Trader. They had a miniature, and that was it. I believe, okay, I may not be Face Octopus, I'm gonna take this at face value, but I suspect this is actually a Fishman meme, which I believe the community is very fond of doing Fishman memes. So I see you, sir. I see you. In 40k, the Fishmen are called Shaharidan.
Well, a Fishman.
A single Fishman exists in 40k, and it is an abhuman, and it's a shark man.
It's an, well, okay, Ratgall are also shark men, to be clear. Yep. But yeah, an aquatic species are, I think the Fraal, no. Is it one of those species that we talked about before, I think was aquatic. It might have been the Nississar, it might have been I don't know. But anyway, aquatic species are a common sci-fi staple. Oh. And it would be really fun. It would be fun to see a 40k version of that. I actually messed around with some ideas for an ocean world in Wrath and Glory that we never got to get further. I think Necromunda's got like some weird underwater stuff as well, because they go into like a almost relay mythos inspired section of Necromunda.
They have a Cthulhu. The one gang follows them. I can't remember their name right now.
The Lack.
But you know what would be cool for an army for Total War?
Yeah.
A Necromunda army.
That would be rad. If I could, that would be so rad. Oh, yeah.
Hitters would just be guard vehicles, but they're all like graffitied up or in the Escher color scheme. Screw everyone else. The Eschers are the best. But the Eschers could have like the jet bikes. You could have some silly things. You could have all of their poison bombardment weapons, because they're like super into poisons, and poison's so strong they work on Space Marines and drive them crazy, like that one definitely Blood Angel that's on the planet.
Definitely a Blood Angel. Dark Tide's new unit would fit that theme, says Moritz von der Borch. I think he's talking about the Scum, the Hive Scum.
Yeah, the Hive Scum, that's definitely an Escher.
So Scum in general, Scum obviously started in Necromunda as a thing. They were actually one of the core classes of the original Dark Heresy. You could play a Scum. And they got expanded a little bit more. We actually expanded them for Ascension with the idea of the Desperado being a sort of advanced Scum. And like there were a lot of places you could take a Scum and do some interesting things with. It's almost like an anti-Lost in the Damned, if you think about it in the right way, where you have all of the little groups like Fraterris Militia, Scum, maybe Enforcers, guys that we rarely see getting a faction in Total War. Arbites would be
Arbites. Oh my god, yes.
Arbites.
Let's get the Arbites.
Let's get some Space Cops. That would be sweet.
Oh, that would be cool, because they could have squads of dogs just charging at people.
Man like Pegasus asks, should we talk about Kroot? We have a whole episode on them. They can have their own faction separated the Fatale. They certainly could, and we have a whole episode about this.
Yes, I fully agree with this. More Kroot, bigger Kroot, stronger Kroot.
Redemptionist mob, yeah. Redemptionist mob. Actually, Ecclesiarchy in general, or like a pilgrimage would be a fun faction to play, where you have just like the arco-flagellants and all the weird ecclesiarchy stuff. The Crusaders obviously be a part of that faction. It's sisters adjacent, I know, but it's a relatively untapped well in 40k.
So, do you want to hear something sad?
Hmm?
Currently, there are no Crusaders in 10th edition.
Huh. Bummer.
Yeah, the Sacristans replaced the Crusaders.
Hmm.
Which annoys me because I have like 16 Crusader models. So I'm annoyed, but it annoys me.
So this actually reminds me of a very minor canon issue that I encountered when I was working at Games Workshop, which was the Inquisition Codex had just come out for 4th edition, and it said that Inquisitors had armies of stormtroopers, inquisitional stormtroopers that they could call on. And when we were working on Dark Heresy, the head of IP, Alan Merritt, was like, no, they don't. They definitely do not have armies of stormtroopers. And so we didn't talk about them. We didn't mention them. We didn't make a deal out of it. But later on, that changed back. Like, I've read that there now are inquisitional stormtroopers and stuff like that. So
it's very weird. They don't have stormtroopers. They have Tempestus Scions. Legally distinct stormtroopers.
I mean, yeah.
Can't have stormtroopers. That's a Star Wars thing.
Well, the nomenclature got a little interesting around 6th and 7th edition when they started changing everything from wasn't Eldar, it was Eldari. It wasn't Imperial Guard, it was Astra Militarum, and it wasn't Stormtroopers, it was Tempestus Scions. There was a major. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons why I say there's a canon shift around that era, because a lot of things slightly changed, and then after 7th edition they greatly changed because of the Era Indomitus.
Yeah.
Scions are flipping awesome. Mr. Mike hates peasants. I agree
with that as well.
Men like Pegasus. What about making a faction of ancient human AI tech coming back somehow and or being reawakened? Men of Iron. A Men of Iron faction. So we have Excendios. We have that guy from Blackstone Fortress. We know they exist.
Yep. And they pretend to be Imperial robots.
Well, at least that one guy did.
Yes.
So yeah, that could be interesting. I like where your head's at, sir. I wish we had more lore to draw on. I feel like this is
only like 3 sentences.
This feels like a Grand Cathay type of thing where we don't know much, but it wouldn't. If you sat down and got the design studio to like spend a week or two, you could probably come up with something pretty big.
Yeah.
So,
do we want to show off some miniatures that were painted by myself and the community?
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah,
wait. Friend of Trader says Space Whale Army.
Yes. Yes. Agreed with this. Okay. So we got only a few things in this week, which is fine.
Oh, look, my shirt. It's Grey Knights. We are the Hammer, baby.
So those
are some good looking Grey Knights.
This is a Grey Knight Terminator unit.
It sure is. They look great.
They do. They look great.
Drill out your barrels and do something more interesting with those bases, but they look really great. This is tabletop ready. Love it.
Yes.
Those guys.
I think this is great.
I'd be proud to own this for sure.
Yeah. I do wish that Grey Knights actually got like a little bit. I know what Games Workshop is doing with Grey Knights right now. They're trying to clear out their inventory of Grey Knights because they have too many of them before they release the new Grey Knight kits that we know that they have for like 2 years now. We know that Primaris Grey Knights are a thing. We know that GW has them. They're not Primaris, but they're bigger scale Grey Knights. And GW is just trying to clear inventory. But man, do I want some new models for them. They are so small now.
Fun fact, back in the day, you could take a plastic Terminator head and just shave it to look like those heads, which was actually something I did on one of my early Space Marine chapters that I put together. As I cut all their helmets to look like Grey Knight helmets because I like the way the Grey Knight helmets looked.
I do love the Grey Knight helmet as well. I'm not sure if we got this one as well. Whoops, that one came to the wrong screen. There we go. There is one more Grey Knight here. This
Hmm.
one is done by Lenny, and it looks to be a Grey Knight captain of some sort. I forget what their captains are called. Um, why is my brain like running a blank on what their captains are called?
I am having a similar issues today. I'm
Right?
forgetting a lot of stuff, but that guy looks really good. I think look at the non-metal metallics on his blade there on the weapon. Space Marines shave their helmets, not their facial hair. Well, if you're a Space Wolf, that's true.
Yeah. I do really like the non-metallic metal on this. So Lenny, you did an outrageously good job. The base needs work, obviously, but you know that. I really like this. I think this looks crazy cool. You guys are doing fantastic jobs on
I think
these
they're just
Grey
called
Knights.
captains. I think Grey Knight captains are just called captains.
They're not called like something crazy like
I think they're just called captains.
Huh. Well, okay then. So we got some orc stuff. This is from Hellflayer, and this is a little hard to see. So I'm gonna try to get my screen correct. Oh, that did not help at all. But this is the new what the heck is this called? The squig truck. What is this thing called? It's it has a name, and it has a hilarious name. My brain is just completely blank on its name. It's not the rocket truck squig buggy. It's the I'm so lost on the name.
Well, the colors are nice. It doesn't look. Is this done or is this a work in progress? Is my first.
This
question.
looks like work in progress.
Yeah, it does look like a work in progress to me as well.
Yeah, but you're getting it down. This is a very hard model.
Great start.
Paint, to be honest.
That's a great start, and it does look like a very complicated model to paint. Look at the eyes on the model, the Gork face back there. Yeah, that's cool.
That's a Mork face. Now we have to fight over it. Is it a Gork face or a Mork face?
That looks like a weird boy strapped in up there, which is really cool.
Kill rig. Thank you. It is called a kill rig.
All right, thank you, sir. Spitfire 703, you're a champ. Okay. Oh wow.
That is some thick paint. You need to thin those paints.
Thin your paints, buddy.
Though the base is really well done.
Nice base, yeah. Cannot knock the base at all. But the colors are nice.
We just need you to thin those paints.
Yeah, this is a case of, so painting is a skill, right? The more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that you've got a really good start on your colors and keeping things relatively clean, and as far as you only put paint on what you want to put paint on. But this is a skill issue where you're going to learn to paint better with thinner coats.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes on smoother and leaves it looking a little bit better. This is honestly this miniature is one that I would consider stripping. I would consider putting it into some acetone, right? If it's a metal,
simple green if you're an American.
Simple green, and actually paint it again, because I think you've got the skill to make it look good, or at least you got the instinct to make it look good. But right now, it's just that paint is really, really thick.
Thick.
Yeah.
One thing that I would always recommend to newer players when you're painting orcs, especially, Zenithal Highlight is very quick and easy. It's just black primer and then a light overcoat from a certain angle, and then I'm currently painting an entire orc commission. I'm painting a whole Wa here, but contrast mantis green is your best friend. Is your best friend for orc skin.
In case you don't know, anybody who's joining us is really confused about why we're talking about minis on a Canon episode. What we like to do in the last section of the show is we like to show off some of the paint jobs from our community and give them some critiques. I have been a Golden Demon judge in the past. I worked directly under Dave Taylor, so I know a lot about painting, but Alexis is actually a commission painter who's got a very fine business doing really, really nice models. And she's got a lot more experience with the more recent colors and tools and washes and things than I do. So it's helpful to have both of us go over these. But in case you're confused about why do they talk about models all of a sudden? Is this canon? Is this not canon? Well, it's not about it. It's about the paint jobs.
Oh, it's about our community.
It's really about you guys. Who's this one from?
This is still from Hellflayer.
Okay.
We only got 3 people that showed us models 4 people that showed us models this week, myself included. That's why we only did 10 minutes instead of our traditional like 20-25 minutes. So there's not too many, but again, like on this miniature, you can see that they have the instinct down for painting the miniature. They know where the colors are supposed to be. They got it down, and this is actually getting like you can see your skill is increasing as you're painting more miniatures. One thing that I would recommend is washes are your friend. Especially on gray knights, you want to just black wash the whole armor right after you're done painting it, and then dry brush it a silver again, so that way you get the edges nice and shiny. Then maybe go over it with a white on very thin parts of the armor, so you can get that nice popping shiny effect. On the gun, use Carabal Crimson, and then over it with you want to use Fugan Orange to get the reds to pop. The demon head is fine. I think that actually looks good. I'd fix the little paint rip, and that's about it. And I really like this. I can see your skill improving.
So I've painted a lot of Grey Knights. I've actually painted this specific model before too, so I can help out a little bit here. You see those gold sections where the lettering is on his leg, for example, or up near his neck. That is a prime location for dry brushing, and I would recommend you to look at some videos on YouTube. There's some really great painters on YouTube that have excellent dry brushing techniques that they can show you how to do. Actually, what I learned recently from one of those videos how to do dry brushing slightly better, which is like using a little sponge. So I would recommend you go look at some techniques on how to dry brush, because a dry brush over those the areas where there's a lot of little letters and things like that would really improve the look of your model. And also that's where you can get edge highlights and things like that we've mentioned in the past. There's a little bit of a color issue on the sword handle, the hilt, the hilt and the crossguard are the same exact color as his hand, and unfortunately that's getting lost in there. So one of my suggestions, maybe look at that as well. Man Like Pegasus asks, Lorebeards, do you guys ever look at non-40k paint jobs? Yes, we do.
Honestly, if you want to have us see non-40k, I strictly go to the 40k thing on our Discord. But if you want non-40k miniatures, just send them to me, and they will be added to this. It is all about the community.
Men Like Pegasus goes on to say, I only have a Fireslayer army, i.e. naked squats. Yeah, to be clear, when we're talking about paint jobs, especially paint jobs like this one, it's about getting it to tabletop quality. If you tell me that you're painting for a competition, I'm going to be a lot harder. I'm going to be a lot more critical, I should say. But if you're just wanting tabletop quality, this actually fits the definition of tabletop quality. But I think this guy would be happier and prouder of his model if he used some of the techniques that we're bringing out. So it's really all about, I'm not trying to bring anybody down. I want to build you up. I want to make you a better painter. Yeah. And that's why we're talking about it the way we're talking about it. For anybody who doesn't know.
This is also one of their miniatures, and this is incredible.
Bro, that is rad as hell. That is a damn good looking Necron.
Like, they just increase. Like, it is just really, really, really good. I'm really happy with this miniature. The blues look amazing. You have two-toned blues everywhere. This is great.
I would say
you
this
actually have washes on your gold.
Yeah. I would say this is a strong tabletop quality model.
Mm-hmm. And then let's just get.
Hey, this looks familiar.
So this is what I am currently still working on.
Meow Yin.
This is the base work that I've started.
Whoa! Now that is a base. Damn, Alexis.
Oh, also, I got the pupils painted.
Wow. Okay. I am not ashamed to say you are a much better painter than I am. There's no question about that whatsoever. And yeah, this is very high quality and would certainly be something you could enter into a painting competition.
This is the goal of this. And there's a small river running through this. The river is glossy next to all of the more arid. I tried to look for a Chinese desert like color scheme to go along with these rocks and everything. And China doesn't really have too many deserts. which is kind of weird because that's where these rocks would be found, or dry, arid areas. So I had to look really closely at different plants and everything, and then match them to tufts that we could buy here in Iceland. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy with this base.
There's a fun total war mod where you can through an event have Imric and Miao Yin go out on a date.
That is amazing.
And I'm sitting here like, okay, we talk about wanting romance. To me, that's like a Imric and Miao Yin as a couple is kind of amazing. So there you go. Micah says, why learning how to paint when you can simply send all of your minis to Alexis? Clearly, that's the moral of the story. Well, she does work for money, so
yes. I did base it off of the Gobi Desert. So you are correct. This is the logic of one of my friends. He doesn't have time to paint, and his painting sucks. So he just went, here's my army. Here's another army. Here's another army. I have a whole bunch of his orcs just chilling on my table back there, including Gosgol, Makari, 20 Luda boys, 20 knobs, and a whole bunch of boys just waiting to be painted.
Unfortunately,
I just wanted to show off this base. I thought it looked really cool. And
it does.
I'm hoping this inspires you guys to do more with your basing.
Well, it would make me happier. Can't deny that.
Also, you can't complain about drilled out barrels if there's no guns.
That's right. That's true. Alexis, this looks amazing. Thank you guys for joining us today to talk about Warhammer 40k Canon. It's one of the episodes I've been looking forward to the most. I've honestly just been like vibrating. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk about what's canon and what's not, and talk about the 4 big retcons, which we managed to do. We might come around and do a part 2 on this just to kind of go over some of the other things that are no longer canon. Because there's a list, and that we could even do an episode on what has become canon from third-party things, including the role-playing game, which again, several things have become canon from the role-playing games. Just appreciate you guys joining us for today's journey, and we will see you guys on Saturday for our next show. And our next show, let me just double check what that's going to be.
It's a show that involves both of us. And I definitely didn't forget. And I'm trying to filibuster this just so that we can, make sure that we have the proper idea for our audience while my buddy here looks it up, because we totally didn't forget. We're just trying to leave you in suspense
my gosh.
right now.
It looks like it is going to be killing me. We did Cain, we did Sisters, we did Tyranids. You know what? It'll be a surprise. We'll announce it on the Discord. It'll be a surprise. Just keep an eye out for it. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a great day.
All right, take care, everyone. Love you guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.